can do it.
We believe in you? We do, right?
I mean, most of the time. Yeah, alright. Cue the actual game.
Lady Nocturne is here and says I have to say it first.
A swift arrival. You even came earlier than the intro, so cue that. A kind day to you all. I'm Kinsmark.
I'm Violeta.
And I am continuing coverage for Black Squad. I covered this in a few episodes on the channel proper for anyone that hasn't seen it. And because I had some sour news that I shan't cover here. Check out the channel proper if you're interested in hearing about that if you haven't already. That came about yesterday, and so I'm still a little sullen and down from that, because suffice it to say, it left me feeling frustrated, defeated, and just demoralized. I am endeavoring to make the most of it and to process as efficiently as I can and to move on productively and carry on creatively and professionally. Anyway, all that said,
we aren't up to stakes.
Yeah, I couldn't say in all honesty that I could handle the stress of continuing the Styx stream series, because that's already a stressful game, and I already tend to get mad at it, and I don't want to get even more mad at it than it deserves just because my mood is a little sour at the moment. So I'm already sort of redlining. I'd prefer not to go full on.
Don't want to boil over.
RPG limit break and just full rage monster punch a hole in my screen. You know? Can you respect that? I certainly hope so.
I think so.
So anyway, catching anyone up that hasn't seen coverage of this game so far, it is a competitive free-to-play FPS that just came out on Steam, and despite its appearance, because it looks awfully generic, it's actually considerably solid. It's a little limited. There aren't that many maps available. There is a fair amount of modes available, however, and the monetary shop is fair. There aren't any just straight-up superior weapons available for real money purchase, and everything in the game is earnable through just playing. Now, there's a fair amount of grind to it, and I also have, at the moment, every gun in the game, except for some of the ones from the metal shop, which is like a special earnable currency that you get from like leveling up and stuff. All of the standard armament, though, I have for, I think, like another day or so, because since this game is currently in early access, there's a promotional couple of, they call them DLCs, even though they aren't actually like downloaded as such. They're just sort of activated and redeemed through, I think, like the inbox in game. Yeah, you would go to the DLC inbox and activate it there. I already have, so that's why it isn't there. And so for 15 days, you get access to all of the standard armament in the game.
In other words, you get to test them.
Yeah, a cross-section.
Figure out what you like, what you don't like.
Yeah, the entire arsenal is available, and you can then decide, like, all right, is anything in this game for me? And if it isn't, just check out and say, all right, cool, have a good one. So
and
I mean,
if it is,
yeah,
you know what?
It's a generous offer.
Towards once it's
exactly,
once it's run out.
And the game actually started me off with enough of its standard, I think it's gold is the normal currency, to make more than one permanent purchase for additions to my arsenal. So I mean, generous game, and it's fair, it's snappy, it's responsive, comparable to Counter-Strike, Alliance of Valiant Arms, Combat Arms, although I'm hesitant to make that comparison since I consider it vastly superior to Combat Arms. So yeah, I'm actually happy to continue covering this since I'm still enjoying it. I haven't tapped it out, and they're continually adding content to it.
There's a lot.
All right, catch up on chat.
And I'm really upset with the Twitch app because it's being twitchy.
It's still doing the thing.
Oh no, it's worse than that.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so I tried to scroll and it jumps up there.
Oh,
so
yeah,
I
it
tried
was...
like,
It was doing
and
that
then
to me. Okay, and then it full screens. Yeah, I don't know why it does that.
So Lady Nocturne says, I caught you this time, and it's only 11:30 p.m. Nice. Noah is here. Howdy, folks. How y'all doing?
Hey, how goes, man?
Knight is here. Lady Nocturne says, I've actually been playing For Honor a lot lately since the 4 new classes have been made. Sheil is here and says, hiya. Marcus says, howdy. Lady Nocturne says, yes, the 15-day free trial on weapons. I like when games do that, to give you a taste of what each weapon is like before you purchase.
Yeah, exactly. Also, isn't For Honor on a free weekend right now? I think it is.
It might be. Or, well, I wouldn't say it's a free weekend since it's the middle of the week.
Yeah, or maybe that was this past weekend, and I've just lost track of time in my stress miasma. Anyway.
Noah says, doing alright. If you're looking for a +1 for this game, I'm happy to hop in and just keep it kind of low-key and chill.
I'm cool with that.
Sounds good.
So let me hop into Discord. I do
want to warn you guys, I have not been feeling good lately, so I'm a bit low-key myself right now. So
yeah, she's feeling about like I did on Monday.
And also, our chat phone currently is.
Yeah, I forgot to plug it in, and it's at like 15% power. So thankfully, this phone keeps a charge pretty long, even once it's gotten pretty low. It might die on us sometime through the stream, though, or we might just use that as a reason to close out, because, again, each of us are a little short on energy, so...
Lady Nocturne says, my favorite character so far is the new Roman Centurion class.
Ooh, I didn't know they added that.
Oh, thank you. Lady Nocturne also says, hope you feel better soon, babe. I appreciate it. I hope so, too. Since I would very much like to feel better by the time Friday's stream rolls around, and then we end up going out into the country to hang out with some family that's coming to visit.
Yeah.
I want to feel good enough to not be miserable on that particular trip.
Yeah, and
just saying.
Yeah, and some of these are people that like I don't even really know.
Oh no. My social anxiety's already acting up. Thanks for telling me. You should have waited. Don't tell me that till I'm already in the car.
At least it isn't the, without naming any names, because I don't want to embarrass some of my other family, it isn't the side of the family that has a lot of crazies. It's the more chilled, normal people side of the family.
Okay, I'm okay with that. Sheil says, I think everyone is coming down with something this past week.
Yeah, I've heard of a lot of people that are...
a lot of people coming down with stuff. I wonder if stuff is just happening to go around all at the same time.
That sort of stuff is cyclical, and cyclical. Anyway. Wow. I'm sorry, Noah. You arrived at the worst moment. I could just hear straight disappointment.
That was bad.
Upon arrival.
The groan he made, that's how I felt. Yep. But,
so, how it goes, matey?
Doing alright. It hurts to walk, but I'm in my chair, so we're good.
Did you hurt yourself, or are you just, like, stiff?
Every now and then your body's like, you know what? Sores on your feet.
Yeah, it happens.
That's how it be. So, you know what?
I don't like that.
Just gotta live. Just gotta hang out in a chair for a few days.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Lady Nocturne says, yeah, I had a bit of vertigo today.
Ooh.
It only lasted about 20 minutes, so it wasn't so bad, but it was still very bothersome for its duration. Yeah. I hate it when that happens, though. Like, I don't even know why it happens. I think sometimes the body just freaks out and decides that, no, I'm not going to do what I'm supposed to be doing. You're going to get dizzy, and you're going to be dizzy, and you're going to be all lightheaded and miserable and stuff for however long I feel like. Because I'm a douche.
I'm also...
I might be a little salty right now.
Well,
I apologize.
So am I, because like I'm just a few years shy of 30, and I'm starting to feel it, because my left knee...
He's had it. He's injured it a few times.
Because for anyone that's maybe new around here and doesn't know, I did very like concentrated weekly martial arts for like a decade and a half, and
many years.
a little more lightly for several years after that. So I've put some strain on my form over the years, and apparently my left wrist and my left knee each hate me for it. And it's getting to the point where like my left knee stiffens up like crazy if I just sit still for half an hour even. And I'm just like, I don't want to have to like wear a knee brace thing, except it's probably a good idea.
I've been trying to get him to do that for years. Years. I'm not even exaggerating. Years. I think he's finally starting to be ready to listen to me.
I'm getting close. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Grendel is here and says, "Hey guys."
Hey, how goes, matey? So let's see here.
You really just need to learn to listen to your wife. That's what I'm getting out of this.
This is just lessons for life.
Yes.
The wife knows everything.
Clearly she does. I'm the one who knows where your glasses are at any given time.
This is true. We have reached that point.
Yes, the whole... I can't find my glasses. Have you checked X place?
Alright, Noah, what's your in-game name? So I can add you.
I'm just Nomad Noah. Capital N, capital N.
Nomad Noah.
Shield says, I've been falling apart since I was 21 with a messed up back and right shoulder.
Yeah.
Whoa, hello.
There we go. Alrighty, so how do we actually get into the same match? I've never done this.
Oh,
Do we go into a channel first, maybe?
Probably, yeah. Let's...
Oh, I think you got to get to the lobby screen, and you can add people.
Okay. Alright, so North America quick match.
Yeah. My ankles are apparently really weak on the topic of falling apart bodies. Do you know what you're doing anymore?
Not
No?
really.
No?
Alright, what
Maybe it's in...
game mode are we in the zone for?
I don't know. How much have you played of this yet?
I've played like 5 matches of battle, and that's it, but I had a really good time.
Okay. That one's pretty good. I actually really enjoy Assassination.
What's that?
So,
Oh,
it's like VIP mode. This one does put a spin on it that most games don't, in that the attacking team, even if they manage to take down the VIP, they then have to successfully extract back to their spawn point. And the defense team can then pick them off along their retreat paths. So it's actually a little more involved than most games VIP mode. So I have a lot of fun with this mode.
I'm game for that.
Alright, cool.
Shield says about the messed up right shoulders. It sucks if you do everything right-handed.
I can imagine, yeah.
I can imagine that.
So, aha, there we go. Invite. Yay. Sweet.
Oh, crap. Did I back out next?
Yes.
Yeah, it ditched me.
Hang on. I'm going to close the messenger screen, and it was like, actually, let's kick everybody.
Let's just destroy everything. There we go, I readied up.
Should I just hit start?
Yeah.
Alright, so what gun are you rolling right now?
I'm rolling the Scar L for my primary. I've got the KSG for a shotgun, and I forget which of the bolt-action snipers.
Wow, I'm sorry, Shield. She says both ankles are bad because of all the sprains. Hi.
That's how she is.
That's me. And it used to be, it was only my left ankle because that was the one I sprained all the time because I sprained it really, really bad in high school. And then I sprained it again
and
really,
then you,
really bad in college.
Yeah, then you jacked it up doing spin kicks and kajukenbo.
No, that was jump kicks.
Was it jump kicks?
It was jump kicks.
Or was it jump spins?
No, it was just jump kicks.
Okay.
I came down on it wrong when we were first learning. And I heard a pop or a crack for the sound.
It's not good when you hit the ground and hear pops.
No, that was actually the hit marker noise.
But after that week's just, or rather, that ankle's just been really, really weak. So that's usually the one I hurt.
There's 3 of us.
Oh dear.
Oh, it's you and I against some other poor schmuck.
Well,
Go
for it. And then when I was in Norway just last month, I was an idiot and hurt my right ankle while I was there. And then I went and was even stupider and decided it was a great idea to try and climb a mountain on a hurt ankle.
Yeah, be down.
That was remarkably easy.
Yeah, I don't even know where this guy is.
This is the least woke game mode.
Just...
Oh, his tag is hacks are for you. I don't trust this man.
Well, I mean, his hacks ain't exactly saving him, so...
Yeah. But yeah.
Oh.
So after I climbed the mountain, then my ankle was really fucked up.
Made it.
This is the least woke game mode of all time.
But so now I'm starting to be concerned that my right ankle might be heading down the same path as my left ankle. We'll see, I guess.
Alright,
Here,
no,
can
actually,
check me out. Check this out. What are my hands doing?
which one are you? Oh, you're doing the little gun swap dance.
Gun swap
Yeah.
dance.
All right. Which way do you want to go? Do you want to just head straight?
Yeah.
All right. Oh, I jumped down. Whoopsies. But
Oh well.
Whoops.
The CZ805. It's pretty.
Yeah, that was the gun that I used the most when I first started. I just found the Scar L a little more controllable.
Mhm.
So since its recoil is a little more manageable, whoa! All right, I got shredded. Then I started preferring it.
Yeah, I like the 805 because it hits pretty hard.
It does, yeah.
Nice punch to it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Plus, it has really satisfying audio.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, it does.
I think there was a study that showed like up to a certain % decrease in performance, people will prefer a weaker but punchier weapon.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you're not looking cool, what's the point?
I guess I can get that. That makes sense to me. Marcus says, both of my knees like to remind me of their existence every once in a while. I fell on them when I was in school, right knee when I was in 3rd or 4th grade during a football match, soccer for you Yanks, and left one during junior high hockey match. Yeah. I don't know. There's something wrong with one of my knees. I'm not sure what happened with it, but every now and then, and it's very, very rare, but every now and then I'll move it, like I'll stand up or sit down or something, and there's just sudden stabbing pain underneath my kneecap.
Yeah, that's me.
I don't know what it is though, because I've never hurt my knees.
Oh, I have.
Well, at least I don't think I've hurt my knee. Maybe that fall in high school.
Whoa! Oh God!
That might.
Hello, sir. Panic fire. Straight up panic fire.
Oh, escape.
Get down.
Go.
Okay.
Run. Go home. Your people need you.
I must go. My planet needs me. Oh God! I hear footsteps. Someone's chasing me. I know it. I'm covering our exit.
See.
God, where am I?
Good news.
Shield says, I think I've now got all the
Hey.
mods back in Fallout New Vegas. I even got my oldest to delete some weapon mods because they're already in the game with a different mod.
Cool.
Brenda says, yay, I have no particular joint pains at the moment.
Yes.
Enjoy it
Yes.
as it lasts.
Yes. It's so sad.
Alright, here's the plan.
Yeah.
Knives only. Not actually.
Not actually.
No.
Not
Knives.
actually, no.
This is not a game to get greedy for knife kills in.
No, definitely not. Someone down this corridor, I can guarantee it. Oh, Jesus!
Pyre says, question, does anyone know how to turn
Whoa.
down the RPMs on PC case fans?
I
My
have,
new fans are set to a massively high RPM, so it sounds like a wind tunnel.
I have no idea, man. I can adjust my fan speeds through my computer BIOS.
Yeah, but
I
I don't
don't
know if
know.
all of them can do that.
Yeah, that's just a...
That might just be this computer.
well, that's just my motherboard, so I don't know what yours might allow.
You might check it though,
Oh, no!
because there's the possibility.
Yeah.
Check your card. Usually the company, not the card itself, the manufacturer, like ASUS or whatever, usually they have software that you can beat stuff with as well.
That's true, yeah.
That's true.
So
That's what I use.
their site may have something.
Yeah.
Don't run down center, by the way. They've got a boy posted up there.
Okay.
Shield now has 13 available spots instead of the 5 normal. Well, at least you're double what you were. That's good, right? I think so. Whoa!
Hi! Ow.
Where is he?
Far left.
Oh, got him.
Yep. Ah, you're rocking the Chris.
That's splurge.
Chris is a good boy.
It is. That and the KSG are my close quarters go-tos. The KSG is
Oh, what?
stupidly powerful in this game. Did
That's
you just get
VIP.
mowed over with the VIP?
I don't know if you saw that, but he just instant headshotted me. Look at that. Wow. That's good.
Lady Nocturne says, I only hit fire in this game because I use the laser sight and silencer. I guess
Yeah.
I'm used to Counter-Strike too much, but it serves me well still.
Yeah, I don't actually know how much of a practical difference aiming in actually makes, or if it's just the slight advantage of having a little slight zoom in for your screen to help you target. Because I haven't noticed a change in the spread at all for doing so.
I can't say for sure, but it feels like a slight impact, but nothing big, because I can fire people out to a very good, healthy distance.
Yeah, same. And this game, it lifts so much from Counter-Strike that it may well intentionally cater to people that play like Counter-Strike players.
Yeah, I mean, this is like budget Counter-Strike based.
Oh god, they are all coming center corridor. Like, all of them. Oh, Jesus.
Mr. VIP, what are you doing?
He's trying to extract, except to extract he has to go outside. Uh-oh, the chase is on. Hey, there we go.
You know, it always frustrates me in games when you're doing like an escort mission or something like that, and the person you're escorting goes out in front of all of their escorts. I'm like, what are you doing? That's not the point.
Critical personnel, take point!
I wish it would assign the VIP to somebody and they just follow them.
Yeah.
I do wish that the VIP was a player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it would just switch who on the team.
Yeah,
is
like
the
it would
VIP.
just randomize someone to play as the VIP, and all they get is their sidearm or something.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
But the problem would be, what if you only have one person on the other team?
Yeah. Whoa.
Because that would be
Right.
unfair. Let's
Who the
see.
hell? Uh-oh.
Lady Nocturne says, yeah, my crosshair placement in this is pretty much like Counter-Strike 2. I seem to know where the heads will be. Pirate says, it's very hard for me to use BIOS, as for some reason the BIOS menu loads half of the screen.
Not three.
Only halfway on the screen, so I
that's
can't
weird.
see a lot of it.
Huh.
Also, I tried MSI Command Center since that is who makes my motherboard, but it won't let me go less than 50%. So I don't know if these fans are at 50% or if 50% is the lowest they will go.
I don't know what to tell you, man. That's not really my expertise, so
Yeah.
I would just say, like, see if you can find like Newegg forum threads about it.
Yeah,
they're
just,
usually
just
pretty
look
good.
for some forum threads, see what you can find. Honestly, that's how I fix a lot of problems.
Oh yeah, Google Foo is your friend when it comes to computer issues.
Apparently, I'm pretty good at the Google Foo, especially when it comes to game-breaking bugs.
Yeah, like there are a few series where like she was sitting next to me as I was recording,
And I could sense the rage quitting happening, so I did some research to head that one off.
This most recently happened during Legendary, when like she could sense the full-on game-ending rage quit coming, and started searching for things next to me.
Hey, we did it.
Hey.
That was kind of a curb stomp.
Yeah, I didn't even really shoot at anybody. I don't even think I contributed anything to that round.
Let's see. Lady Nocturne says it's a good game for sure, and its reviews are very positive too, so it looks like a healthy future at the moment.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Like, I really hope the fairness of this game's shop stays consistent.
Yeah.
Because right now, it's not pay to win at all, and God, that's relieving.
Yeah.
Honestly, paying might work against you in this because you don't get to like the gradual rank up and stuff.
Yeah,
so you don't
exactly.
learn the skills.
Sheila's BRB for foods.
You
Ready?
another round?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, you got it ready up, apparently.
Oh, do I have to click into the matchroom thing? Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
Allegedly.
this game does seem to be pretty fun. It
Yeah,
does it's pretty generic looking.
It is.
I
Like,
get
it's-
what you mean, but
It's visually, and even like its name, it's just, God, it's so forgettable.
it reminds me so much of a.v.a.
It does. It reminds me
And-
of the good old days of EG games.
And when it's funny because when Ken first told me about this game, I was like, it sounds like an EG game.
Yeah, it really does.
Honestly, that was the first FPS you ever really introduced me to.
Mm-hmm.
Was Alliance of Valiant
Alliance of Valiant Arms, yeah.
on EG. Like that was legit the first FPS game I ever tried playing. I was crap.
Yeah, college era, that was
'Cause
my go-to
I
just
wasn't good, but
TDM game.
yeah.
And Soldier Front, the original. I freaking loved that.
But I can really see why you said this was why you agreed with me when I said that it sounded
yeah.
like it.
This just taps a certain nostalgia for me that
Oh,
it's
I'm
weird
not
'cause it's not an
looking
old
at
game.
Well, get the heck out! Get the heck out!
go, go, go. Oh, cool. Alright. I killed the last
Uh-huh.
one. That works!
Wow. Did we even know?
Wait, how many of them are there? Okay, so there's
3.
4 of us, 2 of them. That's not good.
You can't look at me.
So, auto-balancing just isn't a thing in this game, apparently.
Yeah,
That's a problem.
Lady Nocturne says, it reminds me of Blacklight Retribution minus the built-in wall hack visor everyone gets.
Yeah.
Without in other words, without the cyberpunk-ish.
And at least so far, sans the cool customization of every part of your gun that Blacklight has. Because, like, that was my favorite part of Blacklight, is the crazy level of customization.
Guy behind me.
Oh god, I see him.
Marcus says, I probably should stay away from webcomics. Checked some random comics a few days ago and gave me an idea for a steampunk western. Helped me. Pyre says, because I've tried 3 different things at this point and have no idea. I can barely hear the fans if I have my headphones on, but I don't always want to have my headphones on.
What the? Mission failed. Oh, they extracted, damn it.
Yeah, once you breach the zone, I think you got like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
To go VIP.
Because they're on their way to the extraction point.
Yeah, I'm not going far right. That got me killed.
I'll try going center this time.
Yeah, webcomics can be a black hole. But they can also be terrible in that they make you want to look for other things or write other things because it's not exactly what you want it to be.
In my case, since I am sort of a hobby sketch artist,
makes you want to make your own.
Yeah, exactly. They start making me get ideas, and I'm like, no, I don't have the time or the skill or the hardware.
So, I cannot tell you how many times I've read, just a fan fiction or another, like, a story that I haven't liked the execution of, but I thought the idea of it was really cool, and I sit there and I'm like, what would it have been like if the execution was better? And then I'm like, no. It's like, I know what's happening here, and it needs to not happen.
I start feeling myself coming up with ideas, just like, well, what if I just did like a short story arc, and I just drew it in my spare time? I'm like, no, you have too much else going on in your spare time.
Oh yeah.
You're writing 2 different tabletop supplementary things, like, no!
Stop it. So, are you trying to kill or are you protecting?
We are assassinos.
Okay.
Vittoria assassini!
Hello?
As much as I prefer Assassin's Creed 1, I still like Ezio.
We can go.
I am dead.
We just need one person to go back. Oh, our boy got a double!
Oh yeah! The Deagle kill!
Thank God for Sniper Wolf. Or Sniper Snow Wolf.
Oh, there we go. I was about to wonder if we had, like, the Sniper Wolf on our team.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
We've got an approximation looking at how they're doing.
She's actually crazy good. I don't know if anybody knows what I'm talking about other than Noah. She's a competitive FPS YouTuber that is amazingly good. She primarily plays the Call of Duty games. And because she's a friggin' girl gamer, she's always called out about, like, oh, she just records other people's gameplay and then just puts her face cam on it. So she's one of those that...
She has the...
She's got the...
I'll show you my controls.
Yeah, the hand cam to prove that, yeah, I'm doing the inputs.
Let's see. Harry says, well, if all else fails, I'll just see if my dad can get a computer guide he knows to try. Marcus says, I have so many story ideas that if I managed to write them all down, I would be entitled for a Nobel Literature Prize. I know, right?
Like, all I can really...
Every day, it's almost like, oh, wouldn't that be cool if you just had... And I'm like, brain stop.
Yeah, all I can manage is to get, like, outlines of the ideas that I come up with.
I can't tell you how many characters we have.
Literally,
I can't tell you because we have so many. I do not know how to count them all.
Alright, I am not super familiar with defense on this map, so you know what? I'm just gonna try and like run. Whoa, god! I'm gonna try and run like direct interference and charge them. Well, that didn't work out for me. Because I don't know where to hole up for good defensive positions.
Where's the good place?
So until I figure that out, I think I'm more useful if I stay mobile.
Yeah, assuming you don't get shot.
Yeah, I mean, assuming I'm not splattered all over the wall, you know.
Speaking of splatter, Jesus.
Put up a good fight.
The sounds of death
The
are
crunchy.
the crunchy, splorchy. Like, I'm like, whoa.
But especially because there's a louder, crunchier one for headshots.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my gosh, the sounds, yo.
Mm-hmm. I do wish I could just set it to automatically always have my suppressor on. It is a little annoying to always have to re-enable it after I respawn. Alright, I'm just gonna rush them and see if I can flank around the side of them.
Are you assassin or?
Yeah, we're on defense. We switch sides.
Okay. How many times each?
I think it's to whoever wins 6 times.
Okay.
One down. I'm a counter assassini.
Oh god, that headshot crunch. I forgot about how loud it is.
It is. Like, it's really startlingly louder than anything else.
Let's see, Lady Nocturne says, I really like the weapon design of the Scar-O. It looks so satisfying.
And I love that the little sling clip on the side of it has physics.
Yes,
it
I
jiggles
was about
around.
to say that. That's the best part to me. I love little touches like that. Because it makes it feel less
nice.
stiff and...
Yeah, it doesn't feel as canned.
Yeah.
Where the hell is the rest of them?
I don't know.
Did they already get the VIP?
Camper.
No, VIP is still up, so...
This is a guy saying all my teammates to install it. I want to say you too. Like, sorry, if you're going to say that, but you should be the first to go.
Okay, so they're moving on the VIP now. I'm going to hang out midway from him to their extraction. That way, if they get him...
How many people are on the other team anyway?
There's only one left. The rest of them are down.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, we've got full teams. Hey! Alright, he's down.
Yay! Marcus says, there have been a couple of instances where I've been writing a current story of mine and stopped for a minute to do some research related to the current stuff I'm writing, and somehow ended up reading about World War II history. 3 hours later, insert rage face going,
well, like, there was
research is such a dangerous thing because, you know, you need it for certain things, but then you go down the rabbit hole and then other things pop into your head and you're like, that doesn't fit the current story. And you're like, but if I did this with a different thing, it's ridiculous.
And there's also that assumption that I had early on writing the most ambitious of my stories. I started with the premise that I'd conceptualize a fictional universe entirely, and that would save me having to do all of the research involved in writing, say, historical fiction.
Nope.
Not so!
Because you have to make all your history.
Yeah, you've got to write all the history, and if you want your history to come across as plausible, then you still need to do research on real-world history, science, physics, chemistry, geology, etc., so that it all makes sense in a fictionalized one.
Yeah.
So you end up having to do as much or more research to write a convincing fictional setting.
Yep. If you really want to get down to the nitty-gritty.
Yeah.
Let's see. Lady Nocturne says it has like an elite special forces look to it instead of an average rifle.
Yeah, yeah.
Celtic Knight says, lol, I see salty Call of Duty players in the game.
Oh, yeah?
Stock Sandwich says, I just got a double kill with Twitch's drone in Siege.
I love drone kills with Twitch. Oh, get him.
Why is this boy hip firing?
Get him. There we go. He's using the 417, so hip fire with it is like a friggin' laser.
Is it? Alright.
Yeah. I don't like how much the recoil on the 417 jumps around in this game, and I hate its optic.
But hip fire's not so bad.
Yeah, for people that have figured out how to use it well, they're generally really freaking good with it, though.
I didn't think Q allowed you to do in Counter-Strike. There's definite recoil patterns on guns, and I can't tell if this game has it or not.
I don't know. I haven't really played enough. Like, they all have different recoil in terms of, like, severity. I don't know if they have preset patterns, though.
I think the Counter-Strike patterns is a really helpful mechanic for
Lady Nocturne says that gun is so damn powerful.
It is.
Pyre says, so, Ken, how's that Pathfinder thing going that was mentioned like 4 million years ago?
It was shelved for a while when we were in the midst of all the move and stuff. I have started working on it again recently. It's just not ready. Because I want to make it as good as I can.
Yeah.
And I still have a lot more stuff to flesh out, and then there's going to be the playtesting phase, which should happen pretty soon.
Yep.
And it's just, I kind of had to relearn my own system since I had shelved it for long enough that I forgot some of my own intricacies. So,
Kelsey Knight says, yep, good player, aka bad player on team, telling other teammates not to install. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the thing that I always turn around on people are just like, oh man, this team sucks. I'm like, yep, you're on it.
Yeah, you're not in traffic, you're part of traffic.
Exactly.
Oh, so it tells you assassination.
Yeah, the one thing I don't like in this game, because it's cringy and I don't think it's intentionally so, the commentary lines from the... Whoa, what the hell? Oh god, alright, they flanked around hard to the left. Anyway, like...
the announcer dude?
Well, it's not even the announcer, it's like the characters. Because whenever you reload, your character will usually go, "Tac reload!" I'm like,
Tac reload!
Nobody says that. Like, literally no one, except the cringiest of tactical instructors, most of which discredited.
Well, I have 30 hours of Counter-Strike. How are you discredit me? When I say tac reload.
Oh, no. How do you even see him?
I don't know.
I mean, I guess he just figured, oh, if there's smoke, they're probably hiding in the smoke, and then just sprayed it.
Yeah, World of Warships rules. If there's smoke, there's someone in it.
Yeah, exactly. Ooh, nice shot.
Spicy.
Wait, what kind of chopper is that? I was about to say, what kind of ship is that? Because I've played a lot of sci-fi lately. Because it's not a Hind. What is that? Look at the chopper, dude! No, that's a Hind. Okay.
Let's see.
I was gonna say, I like how both sides use the Hind, and I realized the teams rotate.
Yeah.
Marcus is doing a tactical reload. Pulls out a magazine by twirling it like a revolver.
I hate, especially in stealth games where there's a lot of callouts. It's like, stop.
Yeah.
Shut mouth.
Exactly, like in Siege. I'm like, no, stop saying it out loud.
Nobody does that.
I've infiltrated the enemy base. Reloading.
Yeah.
Like, stop, please. I beg you. Oh, Christ.
Ow.
Ooh, goodness. The one thing it would show is how much damage you did to somebody before.
Yeah, exactly.
I just love seeing that readout. I get why, because I don't want people being like, oh, he has one health left. But it's helpful to know, and it's nice to know.
It is. Alright, going for it. Oh, shit. I forget sometimes how much of an aimbot that VIP actually has.
Yeah, he's not a nice boy.
He's really not. He doesn't do much damage. He's really accurate with that pistol, though.
Yeah.
Paris says, speaking of ships, it reminds me of how Gundam spaceships have wheels for sailing ships.
Yeah, I know.
What?
Boats with wheels are true revolutionary praxis.
Oh, man. It's so weird to see the lefties in this game. Because this is one of the few games I've ever seen that allows you to change the handedness of your character's animations.
I really like it.
Yeah, it's a really cool touch.
That is cool.
It just looks so strange to my eyes to see the left-handed animations.
It's nice that they have both types of animations, though.
Yeah, exactly. And it also, it changes the positioning of the ejection port so that it's actually ejecting shells in the correct direction for whichever hand it's in.
They did their work on that one, then.
They did, yeah.
Nice.
Unlike Stalker, where you just flip a right-handed gun, make it left-handed, then put it in the right person.
Yeah, exactly. Oh god. Oh god. Friendo guy, you wanna actually, like, help?
No. Marcus says, I'm a lefty, and it seems so weird to see a lefty FPS.
It does. Ow! Oh, crap, he circled around.
Uh-oh.
Alright then.
Well, Marcus says, though, I would like to see how you would steer a sailing ship with a boat wheel. Would you lean forward and back to angle the ship up and down?
I guess.
Lady Nocturne says, I'd rather have a red dot sight than holographic, personally.
Same.
Is there a way to change that?
Unfortunately, not yet. A few people have mentioned... I haven't found any official word of it. I assume people just are referencing things on, like, their forums that aren't on the Steam page. Pardon me.
Oh, based on sailing.
Eventually, the devs are planning on implementing, changing out more attachments. It's just not in the game yet.
It's just not there yet. Yeah.
So for now, you're stuck with whatever optic a gun comes with. Which unfortunately for my precious little Scar L here means I have to put up with a hollow.
Yeah.
Even though I'd really prefer a red dot.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
Marcus says probably because I shoot right-handed, so, even though he's a lefty.
Right.
Yeah. Pyro says it meant spaceship, not sailing ship.
Yeah.
It would be. How do you do the three-dimension thing?
You would definitely have to make it like pitch forward and reverse.
Yeah.
Reload the grenade launcher.
Dimensioning.
Whoa. Wow, I just whiffed a whole mag. Jesus.
That's good, actually.
Oh, wow. Okay, alright.
I've never shot a gun in my life. I'd love to see what a AK feels like to fire.
Same here. Not on the never shot a gun, it's just I've never shot an AK. I am curious, because I hear they kick pretty hard.
Yeah?
Because, I mean, it's firing a 7.62 instead of a 5.56, which is what most NATO standard rifles fire.
And it's a looser action.
Yeah.
There's a lot more movement, so you feel it.
It's a little more, like, shaky in your grip. Whoa! Hi there. Okay,
right
he just
there.
sort of appeared around the corner. I was surprised, though, because for anyone new around here, like, I don't think, talked too much firearms with, like, Lady Nocturne around. I do own a Mosin Nagant, and I was really surprised the first time I shot that, because it's rather known for having a stout recoil. And, I mean, yeah, you feel it. It wasn't nearly as severe as I expected from all that I had read online. And, so I am curious, because, like, again, the AK platform has a similar reputation. So, I don't know, one of these days.
Yep. Marcus says, I carried an AK clone, the Arcade 62 in the Army. It kicks fuck all. Pardon my language, it's a direct quote.
Isn't, Marcus, I think you and I talked about this at one point, isn't the Finnish standard rifle essentially a Valmet, just with a different designation?
Pyro says stout recoil sounds more like a pint than something to do with guns. Lady Nocturne says the closest I've gotten to shooting a gun is a Glock 17 airsoft gun, so I imagine it's nothing like the real thing.
Nah, slight difference in pressure loads.
Just a little,
The hardest kicking thing I've ever shot was a Galil, and that kicks like a mule.
Yeah, well, especially because the Galil doesn't really have much of any recoil mitigation systems.
Yeah.
It's just sort of a giant chunk of steel.
Yeah, just like the AK, it's very heavy on recoil, and people say, oh, the Galil is heavy, doesn't kick much. No.
No, it does.
Wrong.
It punches you in the shoulder.
Yeah. Like, I can keep it on target, but it hits hard.
Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit.
Oh.
Ow, no! Oh, they circled around. Wow, one of their guys is really good at flanking. Like, really good. He's kind of doing what I was doing last round. Damn.
Where's our camping boy? Oh wow, the AK has the worst sight picture I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Pyro says I've only ever shot air rifles.
Yeah, they're a good time. I'm always like, because as much as I am a proponent for like self-defense rights, and I encourage people to learn as much as they can about firearms instead of just fearing them instinctually. At the same time, I'm very centric upon make sure everything is safe. Always make sure that someone properly teaches, safety first prior to even letting them touch a weapon. So as long as you're smart about it, they're a fun time to go take to the range and go and shoot.
Lady Nocturne says, how do military deal with the kick on guns? Their shoulders must be really badly bruised.
Lots and lots of practice.
Yeah.
Practice,
and
training, and...
proper form helps.
Yeah.
Like, she felt the results of improperly shouldering the Mosin.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
I've only done it once, but that was my...
Once was enough.
Once was enough. Mark says, yes, Ken, the Valmet RK62. We
that's
just
what I
leave the
thought.
manufacturer out when we say it.
Yeah. Yeah, like I taught her how to shoulder up the Mosin, and She was even surprised as well the first few times she shot it that it really isn't as severe a recoil as a lot of people make it out.
But
if you don't shoulder it properly,
if you
though.
do it wrong, though, like I ended up, I didn't put it in the right crook.
Yeah, because you have to.
It ended up on my collarbone, so when it kicked, it straight onto my collarbone, which has nothing in the way.
Yeah, because if you don't seat it properly, more like in the meat of your shoulder than on like skeletal ridges. Don't do the latter.
No, it hurts. It hurts bad. Don't do it.
Oh,
I was done shooting the Mosin for the day after that one time.
Yeah, she went and then shot the little 22 with her dad for a while.
I went and blinked.
Oh god, ow.
Oh.
Well,
Yeah.
I kind of forgot that was a corridor they could come from. Alright.
Yes, that's a corridor. Let's see.
Damn, nice shot, dude.
Marcus's thick webbing for helping.
Yeah, that too. Now we've got some padding.
Pyro says, I propose LLP community get together at some point far into the future that just involves shooting guns for a day.
Oh, hell yeah, man. I would love to do, like,
awesome.
a fan meetup at a range.
At a range, yeah.
Hell yes.
Just rent the whole range for the day, like, for just us.
Yeah.
Graham says, meanest gun I shot was a 12-inch, 12-gauge Chinese double barrel we bought off Marstar. Marcus says, also, average service rifle doesn't kick anywhere near as much as people would think.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's by design, because, you know, it needs to perform in the hands of pretty much anyone.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's going to include short people, tall people, you know, friggin' jacked people, thin people. Like, it has to remain serviceable
body types.
in pretty much anyone that meets the fitness standards of any given military. It has to meet their ability to handle well.
Yeah. Because if it doesn't, then what you doing?
Yeah, because then you're looking at a combat efficacy deficiency, and you don't want that.
Should I low power mode or no?
No, don't worry about it.
10% battery remaining.
Okay.
It's starting to be like, what are you doing? Why?
Oh, we're all yelling tack reload. I like this.
Pyro says, I have no idea on the technicalities of flying to America and just showing up in a shooting range when you're not American.
No, that's totally fine.
No, that's fine.
Because the legalities of firearms in America really come down to, it's where you, rather, who can own what and where you can carry it around. Just going to a range, which is already a controlled environment, and, like, renting the stuff that they have on hand, like a lot of ranges allow you to do, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
You'll have to provide ID, of course, to verify your age and identity. That's it, though.
Yeah.
Whoa! Don't know
The
where that
splorge,
shot came
man.
from.
The splorge.
Oh, they're up there. Gotcha.
Ooh. There's something about the brain matter splorge.
Oh, I'm down. They're going back to the helipad.
Okay. I will meet them there.
Good plan.
Well, that might not have been a brain matter splorge. That might just have been an innard splorge. Just straight innards.
Choppers arrived, so that means... Whoa, God! Well, he knew I was there.
Lady Nocturne says, well, in England we aren't allowed guns for self-defense or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. She says,
Different laws, different
"Kinda
places.
lame." It is what it is, unfortunately.
Yeah, I try to refrain from commenting judgmentally on stuff like that, because that tends to fall into the politics realm. I don't have anything against just stating what laws are where, because that's not a judgmental statement. It's just saying, like, well, this is the way it is in different places.
It is the way it is.
And yeah, they are much more restrictive across most of Europe.
Yeah.
Which, if nothing else, it's not as fun, man.
No, because then you can't just... For one, you can't collect them, and then go shoot them, and then, like... But they're fun,
Yeah.
you know?
Like I said,
Like,
I mean,
I had an enormously good time at the range the first time I ever shot a rifle. Like...
And there was a friend of mine that I went to college with who was just completely against the entire concept of them, you know, couldn't understand why anyone would want one, and then finally went to a range for, because unfortunately she had some negative things happen in her life, so she was interested more in the self-defense aspect of it, and she was like, alright, even though I hate the idea of these, maybe they're a necessity, and after her first day at the range, she was just like, oh my god, guns are so much fun, why didn't you tell me? And I'm like, I did! I told you for years!
You just didn't believe me.
Tech reload.
God.
Control mode. If you say tech reload at the range, someone will shoot you. Does that count as political? I think that's just a fact.
Leonardo says, actually, I think we're allowed a shotgun with a license. It has to be locked up very safely. When you take it out, it has to be wrapped up as well. Pirate says, yep, but you have to renew the license every so often. You have to get rid of it if you no longer have a need for it.
Ah, okay, so it's one of
so
the necessity scenarios.
Okay,
Gotcha. I didn't know that part.
Marcus says, funnily enough, England has less restricted gun laws than California in some cases.
It does.
It does.
I'm down. There's VIP.
Pirate says, it's only like a double-barreled shotgun kind of thing.
Yeah. Like the very
those,
simple action, low capacity sort of
the
thing.
necessity clause.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, 1v4 going. Blood guts. Better clutch.
You got this, dude. You and your karambit. You can pull this off.
We believe
Watch
in
your kick,
you.
baby.
Oh my god, maybe he can. He's actually pretty far ahead. Just go, dude. Just go. Hustle. You got this.
You can do it.
Oh my god, maybe he does. Get him, get him, get him. Yes!
Oh.
Double! Oh, he's not going for the extraction. Or is he? No. Oh god! Can he do it?
There's only one left.
Spicy.
Clutch or kick! Get it! Oh no!
So close.
Oh damn it!
Oh, so close.
He reached for the stars and fell into the void.
But he was so close. So close.
Such a hero. Okay, alright.
We will remember your sacrifice.
I was like, move forward!
Marcus says, I think Saiga 12 is legal in England. Pretty sure one
Really?
of our Discord peeps mentioned it once.
I did not know that.
Lady Noctis says, aren't handguns more restricted than full rifles?
Here in the States, it depends on which state you're in.
It really depends on the state.
Individual states have pretty wildly differing laws.
Yeah. It's part of why I like Texas, because it's not quite
it's a little more loose here in Texas.
And since we like to...
we
like guns,
I like firearms, I like shooting them, I like collecting them, so I don't want to have a lot of limitations placed upon them.
Which equates to living in a place that doesn't...
Yeah, where I'm allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Because I don't actually have a tremendous interest in a lot of modern firearms. I really want to start collecting, and I suppose I already have started, through the Mosin, collecting World War era, like main rifles.
Those are really cool.
Like I really want to get an M1 Garand.
Mine!
I want to get a Carabiner 98.
M1
98s are gorgeous.
They are.
M1
They kick hard though.
Yeah, I mean they're so light.
Because my late cousin, the one that actually first introduced us to shooting the M1, also had a K98, and
I didn't dare try
we
that one.
we shot each of them that same day, or I did. She didn't.
I didn't dare because he. Oh.
I got promoted.
Okay, I was like, what?
Like I shot the M1 and I was just like, wow, okay, I can feel it. It's not as rough as I was expecting. And then I shouldered up the K98 and I was just like, all right, so it's a lighter rifle, so I expected an even lighter kick. I don't know why, because it's a more powerful cartridge. So.
And then he learned.
Yeah, combine.
Oh, do you need to go back?
Yeah, I do. So combine light frame with more powerful round, and that means the gun isn't absorbing the recoil. So I mean, it just punched the shit out of my shoulder.
You might have to ready out.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
That was the whole point coming back to that screen.
K98s hurt, man.
They're pretty. I love all the stampings you can find on them.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Well, that was the
religiously stamped stuff.
And that was one of the fun parts when I got the Mosin, which for folks that don't know is the standard rifle for Russia throughout like a full century's worth of military service. And they actually still use it for drilling.
You'll have to let me catch up here in a bit.
Yeah.
There's a fair amount.
Whoa. Okay, this guy knows what he's doing. Holy crap.
Go!
Go, dude!
Go, bro.
I like your fire axe. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. After I first got it, I had an enormous amount of fun because she and I sat down and started researching as much as we could about the stampings and
so we
the serial numbers.
Interesting history to it.
Yeah, and apparently the Mosin that I've got,
it's seen some stuff.
Yeah, it has some serious history, and that was really cool to do the digging and the reading and stuff about. And
Okay. Can I?
yeah, actually, yeah, this is a good time to catch up.
Okay. So Paris says, well, technically, as long as you have a valid enough reason, you could technically get a Barrett 50 cal, but it would need to be an amazingly good reason.
Yeah, well,
Lee Nocturne says, I've always pictured Texas as just a desert area.
a lot of people have that image, and it isn't really actually accurate.
No, only a portion of Texas is really deserty.
Yeah, that's
we have
pretty much just West Texas out near the El Paso area.
Yeah,
Most of
actually
Texas,
very green.
yeah, most of Texas is hill country, forested areas.
Yep.
And East Texas is actually swampy with some pine forest. Now, North Texas up in the Panhandle is just flat frickin' nothing. Not even desert, it's just like that 3-inch high grass
It's just
with like, you drive for 5 straight hours.
and there's nothing there.
And you get excited on a road trip driving from like Dallas up to Lubbock.
Because
Which,
you see a tree.
yeah, you see like a 10-foot tree and you're like, oh my god, something to look at! And I am not exaggerating in the slightest. North Texas is a wasteland.
Very North Texas, though.
During some of the college scouting, we had to do the 3-hour drive from Houston to Austin.
That one's not too bad.
Yeah, it was a nice drive. Really
Yeah,
scenic.
it's a scenic drive that way.
Yep.
Also, the bandit stuff was tight.
Yeah.
Yep. Marcus says, shotguns in England are less restricted because they don't have rifling, and therefore don't classify as rifles, quoting a Brit I talked to online once.
That makes sense, I suppose.
Paris says, well, I always wanted to put together my own DL-44, aka the Sonholder Blaster. I tried getting even a replica of a Mauser. I would either need to be part of a reenactment troupe, be an official theater actor, or be working for a museum, as well as a bunch of licenses, letters, and IDs, just to get a replica of, and not even a decommissioned one.
Aren't those also like really expensive too? Because those are collector's pieces. I think they're pretty rare if I remember correctly.
Oh.
You get popped?
Yep, scar-H to the jaw.
Alright.
I think a lot of people get the Texas is desert idea from a lot of westerns.
Oh, yeah, they get it from movies.
And most westerns, even the ones that are supposedly set in Texas,
They were
they're
filmed in
not-
Utah.
yeah, they're not filmed in Texas.
Or Arizona.
Yeah, so they're not accurate at all to
No, they're
what
not.
Texas looks like.
Like, especially if you look at the old John Wayne movies and you see like those
Oh my
huge
God.
mesas off in the distance.
that's
That doesn't
not-
exist anywhere in Texas. That's Utah.
Yeah, that's in a little bit of Arizona.
Ooh, ouch, ouch.
Yeah, like the area of Texas that we live in around Houston, it's pretty much swampland.
Yeah.
And the area out near where the family has some country property further west.
Hill country.
Yeah, it's hill country, so it's just pretty much
Rolling hills and
yeah,
trees.
hills, oak trees, some cedar, mostly mesquite.
It's actually very pretty. I think.
Oh, it is. It's gorgeous. It's just not what most people picture, and yet it's what most of the state actually is.
Yeah. Lady Nocturne says, I've always been interested in military stuff. It's one of the reasons why I actually planned to become a field medic when I was 17. Of course, that was several years ago. Pyre says, or I could have gotten one covered in a horrible bright color in plastic and tried to remove that, but I could literally get arrested for doing that.
Gotcha.
Oof. Yeah,
One
no,
of those where
don't
you,
get arrested.
You're not allowed to have like facsimile weapons, I suppose, is probably the case.
Not without a bunch of licenses and stuff, probably.
Yeah, there's a lot of places that have anti-facsimile laws. Like, there was an encounter that she and I had years ago.
Because
that-
there are rules here about airsoft guns.
Yeah, you must have the
Orange tip.
the safety tips. And she and I were attending a anime con.
And he had an old airsoft pistol that was, I think it was an import.
Yeah, it was a Japanese company that made really, really accurate airsoft guns that I was using as a prop because she and I were
Complete
cosplaying.
with working actions. And stuff.
Yeah, like you could actually operate the slide and everything, and it had like a compensator that would stay static even when the slide moves. It was a cool little piece. Sadly, it fell apart a few years ago.
Apart, but,
So I was cosplaying as Naked Snake from MGS3. She was cosplaying as Revy from Black Lagoon. So we look walking down the streets along the sidewalk of Austin, Texas, strapped up for war. And these two cycle cops.
They clearly hadn't been warned.
No.
Or at least they were new.
They had no clue that this convention was going on, clearly along their patrol route. And so they swooped in real fast as soon as they saw us. Because I'm in, like, full-on, like, dark combat clothes. I've got the webbing on. Like, I've got, you know, a prop sidearm strapped to my thigh. She's got, you know, two Beretta 92s under her shoulder, or rather, under her arms. And to these guys, enormous credit.
They didn't draw down on us.
No, they would have had every right to draw down on us. You know, order us onto the ground, cuff us, and, you know, you could even make the case that they could have detained us and, like, taken us at least in to a controlled environment to ask questions.
Crying, but...
Like, yeah, it would have made for not a fun experience. However, I could not have faulted them for any of it. Because we were just so oblivious in our excitement for attending the con that we didn't think about the fact that because we parked several streets away in a parking garage from the hotel,
we'd have to walk.
Yeah, we'd have to walk just down normal people streets, looking like we looked, to get to the con.
I mean, because we were just normal, you know.
Yeah, we weren't moving in any, like, dangerous manner or anything.
And our hands weren't anywhere near a weapon.
Yeah, so these guys swooped in really quickly, however politely. Managed to just sort of, like, snatch them from us, and we're just like, hey, they hand those over. And the one guy, it was adorable. I could tell he had never seen an airsoft gun. I don't know how. Clearly he hadn't, though. Because he
was playing with it. It was adorable.
He plucked my 1911 from me, and he just kept, like, cycling the slide, just staring at it like, wow, this is interesting.
So cool. His partner was like, oh my gosh.
He was kind of giving him the side eye like, dude, we're supposed to look intimidating and authoritarian here. Like, come on, play the part.
I thought it was adorable, so...
No, there were cool toys. There will be no part playing.
Yep.
And they were just like, you know, guys, there is this law, and at the time, I honestly did not know that it was a law. I thought it was just, like, a suggestion.
That's because it was a fairly new law. It had just been a... This is probably something you should do prior to that.
I didn't realize it was actually, like, full-on, like, legal requirement to do so. So they were like, yeah, this is something that you do have to do, so if you're going to, like, a photo op or something and you can't have the orange for that sort of thing, then put it in a duffel instead of displaying it openly, and then put it away again once your event is done. Certainly don't do this in transit in public anymore. And we're like, okay, got it, thanks for not shooting us.
Yeah, and... You know, mine had the orange tip because we had recently bought them. And all the ones you can just buy at regular stores already had the orange tip. So, they were really great.
Those guys, they could have made our day a lot worse, and they really didn't, so...
I'm assuming they figured something weird was up with it because... I was in short shorts and a crop tank top.
With Sharpied-on tattoos.
With Sharpied-on tattoos and guns strapped to, like, it's like, I'm not sure what anybody would think I was doing. Because it was not very, I wouldn't call that successful camouflage or...
We were rather unsubtle in our appearances.
We were not subtle at all. So I'm assuming they figured something was up and that we weren't actually, you know, armed. But they could have made our day so bad and they didn't.
Yeah.
Of course, I had some trouble handing them my airsoft guns when they asked for them because we had painted them.
Yeah, so they were, like, all stuck because the paint had still sort of dried.
Because it was really humid when we paint. So, for some reason, the paint hadn't fully set. So, after sitting in the holsters for a little while, it got stuck.
Mm-hmm.
So, I had to sort of kind of take off the holsters, handed them the holsters, and they had to, like, yank it out. And there were several moments at the con itself where I had to turn down... Go back and ready.
I backed out on accident. Do you want to try a different mode or do you want to keep it?
We can try something else.
Fine.
there was definitely some times where people wanted poses that I'm like, I can't do it. I can't get them out anymore.
Yeah.
The paint has essentially is keeping me from doing that. We ended up throwing those away because the paint never did dry right.
No.
Like,
that's because it was sort of a rush job, so I didn't give it proper time. And unfortunately, when I was leaving them outside to dry, it just rained, so it was really humid, so the paint never set right.
It never did what it was supposed to. So
it stayed all gooey and sticky.
We just said, and threw them away, which was really sad because I didn't want to, but
yeah,
there was nothing we couldn't fix it. So very sad.
Are we on opposite teams?
Yeah, actually we are.
Oh, and, on one leaderboard we are, on the other we're not. If you hit tab.
Oh, yeah, we are. Okay, that's weird.
I don't
Are we on the
get
same team? Where's my boy?
I assume
There you are.
I assume the tab screen is more accurate. I'll do the reload dance.
Reload dance.
Hack reload. Hack reload.
Why? Why? I don't understand.
Because we're tactical.
We are tactical
But that's
operators.
not how that works.
That's how it works if you're as Delta Force as I am.
No, that's not how it works.
What did you just say to me? I can't even finish the friggin' Navy SEAL copy pasta anymore. I can't.
No. I refuse. Can I just refuse? Is that okay? Is that a thing I can do?
Oh, apparently there's little thingies right here. Plunk. Oh god, plunk. That should not have worked, and yet it did. Alright, let's see. Which class should I go with? Assault. Yeah.
We're lagging behind points-wise.
I'll go Assault. Oh, you guys are not friendly. Okay.
We're lagging hard points-wise.
Oh shit, yeah, we are. Okay, so for anyone that hasn't seen coverage of this mode, it's comparable actually to Conquest mode from a lot of other FPS games, except instead of capturing a point, you're damaging them. So, and they're also static, so you're not like taking them from the enemy, you're just destroying them. Also, this is the only mode in the game that its class system comes into play for. Like, I just selected Assault class, and there are several others. And so I have cooldown abilities and stuff that I have to achieve a certain amount of points to unlock the ability to use. Which is interesting. This part right here, I can't help feeling a little ridiculous just standing in a hallway, shooting at a giant crate. Although I remember somebody saying, yeah, knives do more damage. Chop it up! Cut the straps!
This is just the world's most complex unboxing video, actually.
There we go. Friggin' cylinder grenade launcher. Wow, they just don't care about me wrecking shop on this one point.
This one point isn't doing well. Like, it doesn't seem like you're doing that much damage.
I mean, I'm doing as much as infantry can.
Can you fix points?
I don't think so. What? Drop a claymore there. There we go.
Oh, goodness. Goodness me.
Okay. I've claymored the doors. So.
Oh, Jesus.
That's me.
They're on A, probably.
Yeah, I do still have the chat. Sorry.
Alright, time to show the world how it's done, because I got the anti-material rifle.
So if there's something you want me to read, go ahead and just resend it.
Oh god!
Whoa, what?
This dude made the dynamic entry jump at the exact worst time.
Grendel says that grenade launcher is comically underwhelming.
It really is.
Like, I'm like, it's not doing as much as I felt it should.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's an enemy attack helicopter, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Oh god. Oh god.
As soon as I get my anti-material rifle, I'll go for it.
Yeah, the command class can actually straight up summon helicopters.
Lady Nocturne wants to know, I was just asking if U.S. Special Forces were Rangers. I figured it was just Delta Force.
We actually have multiple Special Forces units.
We have a lot.
Doesn't it depend on what branch of the military?
It does. Delta Force is primarily Army, I think, although they're an amalgamation of multiple branches. The Marines have Marine Force Recon. They've also got MARSOC. The Navy, of course, have the Navy SEALs. The Army have the Rangers. I feel like I'm forgetting some. You get the idea, though.
Yeah, we have several. They specialize in different things.
They do. And they've also got different levels, comparable though they are, of like clearance and therefore like what's the term I'm looking for here? Like operational fragility, I guess, or like who's allowed to know what about them is what I'm getting at. Like Delta Force, I think, are the ones that have the most of their operations and details and stuff classified.
Let's see. Lady Nocturne asks, is SOCOM a real thing?
Well, SOCOM is less a unit and more just a division.
Okay, I've noticed there's a pretty hard rock, paper, scissors where the AMR instant kills the heli or does a ton of damage, but that's nice.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Because SOCOM just stands for Special Operations Command, so that's the division that oversees, I think it's the Marines and Navy Special Operations units. I am not active, nor have I ever served, so I may have some of the slight details off there. However, I come from an awful lot of a military family, and a lot of my friends are current active service. Plus, I'm a hobbyist historian, as it were, so I like to think that I'm decently informed for a civilian about such things.
What does the attack heli do? I don't see it doing much.
It goes after players.
Okay, well, I just got rid of it.
The chain gun goes after people on the ground.
Gotcha. The AMR shreds.
Yeah, the AMR I've noticed has an AoE effect. Like, it has explosive shells. So it can clear a room even if you miss.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it.
Oh shit, I keep forgetting to use my airstrike. Airstrike incoming.
Marcus says,
there we friggin' go.
Marcus says, is it odd that I know surprisingly a lot about foreign military, U.S. in this case? Well, there's so much
there's a lot of
popular media based around it that it's hard not to pick up something, and considering that you were military of a different country anyway.
I think Finland is considered one of our military allies officially.
Yeah, official allies.
I would imagine that there's a lot of crossing of wires.
I've invented what I believe is the most powerful ideology in the world. Are you ready for it?
Hit me!
Monarcho-primitivism.
Lol, what?
You've got a king, and he forces you to live a very basic life.
So, 13th century Europe, then.
No, it's like feudalism, but minus any of the benefits. Any of the few and far between benefits.
So really, it's just a king with a large club saying, "You too shall wield clubs," and nothing else.
A king who is actively starving to death gives you 3 feet of dirt and says, "Make do." I think that's the most woke ideology conceivable, to be honest.
You shall farm dirt for the royals, or else you get the club.
Exactly.
Oh god, they have multiple gunships against us now.
No, this is good, actually. I like this.
No, I disagree.
No, this is fine, actually.
Is it?
I do indeed believe things are going our way.
Marcus says, yes, we are military allies, and from what I understand, U.S. is a serious itch to get us to join NATO.
Is Finland not part of NATO? Oh, I thought they were.
It's not. Lane Doctor says, so when it comes to like Ghost Recon games, I suppose those are basically Marine Recon forces?
Pretty much. Because a lot of the Ghost Recon stuff comes from Tom Clancy's work, or is at least inspired from it. And he was rather renowned for doing excruciating amounts of research to get his facts straight for his novels. There's actually an interesting story about his novel, The Hunt for Red October, because it is the first fictional novel that ever had to get clearance from the Pentagon to get published. Because when it was first announced, then some intel officials caught wind of it and were immediately, like, panicked at how much Clancy got correct about a lot of classified information, like even terminology that he used, like crazy Ivan maneuvers for submarines and stuff. That was all classified. Civilians were not supposed to know that stuff, and yet he did. And when they asked him about it, he was just like, I learned everything in this from doing independent research and chatting up veterans at bars, getting them drinks and getting them talking. And they actually had to suggest to him that he change certain things in the interests of operational security. And it's not clear which things he had to change for that.
Actually, you can't talk about that either.
Yeah, exactly.
So some of that book is just lost to time.
Yeah. Like, the original manuscript is probably locked away in the freaking Pentagon somewhere.
That's wild to think about.
It really is.
Being accused of, like, insurgent thought and spying because you wrote a book really well.
Yeah, because he chatted up a bunch of submariners that were willing to chat with this guy that had a lot of respect for the military and for them as individuals and for, the sacrifice and the work that they put into it all. So that commiseration earned him a lot of goodwill from these guys, and they were just like, yeah, sure, I guess I'll tell you. Which is a little scary, and at the same time, it's like, damn, how charismatic must he be?
Very. He has, all of his stats went into charisma.
Lady Doctor
Can we do
says,
it? Oh,
Law,
yeah,
at least
I think
he's
we lost.
honest.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Marcus says, no, we're neutral. Joining the NATO would require us to establish an active professional military, and we're too broke to do that.
Oh, I see.
Our military is almost entirely conscripts. Plus, Finland joining NATO is Russia's worst nightmare.
That's true. Hadn't thought of that particular angle. That is true.
On the flip side, though, it's America's worst nightmare because that's conflict fuel. We don't like nations in NATO that could start wars.
That too, yeah.
Pirate says it's locked away in the Pentagon along with Tom Clancy himself.
He didn't die. He's like Elvis. They got him in the cellar.
He's actually there formulating new strategies that are like 30 years ahead of anything Russia could think of.
Clancy is now the chief strategy advisor for the Pentagon.
Yeah, but of course they can't say a dead body is our strategy advisor. So.
Lady Nocturne asks, is England part of NATO?
Yes. They are one of the core members. I forget the whole list. I used to know every component member of NATO. I'm a little rusty at the moment.
You're ready to roll? Got every nation.
Roll with it.
Belgium, Canada, Denmark, France, Iceland, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, United Kingdom, United States, Greece, Turkey, Germany, Spain, Czech Republic, Hungary, Poland, Bulgaria, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Albania, Croatia, Montenegro.
Dude, you should do radio ads. Holy crap.
One day, maybe.
Like, you're that guy that lists all the horrible side effects as fast as possible on the medical commercials.
God. Hopefully.
I
hope that
didn't-
pays well.
I didn't know Romania was part of NATO.
I
Alright,
didn't either.
I learned something today.
Pirate says he's kept in a cell like that Magneto prison cell from X-Men Days of the Future Past.
The glass cell.
No, because it's Days of Future Past. We haven't
Or,
seen
oh,
that
yeah,
one.
yeah.
It's worth noting Iceland does not have its own standing army, and it instead has a Coast Guard that trains with Norway for NATO, apparently.
Yep.
I mean, I suppose that makes sense.
I actually knew that.
Iceland, they're so small, like, I don't think they have enough of a population to really field a standing armed force.
Mm-hmm.
So, I suppose that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, God, we're starting, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
Dang,
Oh god,
so
I'm not used to
sorry.
playing this map from this angle. Ah, crap.
This map is not fun, to be honest. I don't enjoy this map.
I am definitely going sniper, because Scarl ain't working at this range.
Mm-hmm. Also,
Marcus says Russia knows that if we join NATO, Winter War would look like two kids play fighting in the playground.
Yeah. Oh god. Oh no. Please do not stop shooting me, sir. Please. I am just small man. Ow! Alright.
Oh, Jesus, that's a claymore.
I just took an EMS out of the face.
Yeah, the other day I got like 7 people to send Doc messages, and all the messages just said gamer. That's it. And he just sent me a message that said, "Why did all of you message me gamer while I was asleep last night?" And I just replied, "The council decided."
And of course he knew you were responsible.
Oh, of course. Or at least he thought I could give an explanation.
Oh god.
Pyro says there's actually a graph that I saw that lists the entire population of Iceland to decide how to set up a football team.
Yeah, they're also remarkable in terms of modern history. Now, this isn't something that I think could apply to any given country. I think it only worked because their population is so small. They actually had, a lot of people don't know this, a casualty-less coup a few years ago, like less than 10 years ago, where they were really, I forget the details of it, they were fed up with their president and a fair amount of the cabinet as well, from what I recall. And they just pretty much all like marched on the capital for their respective government, and we're just like, nah, you guys are doing a shitty job. Out. And it worked, and like no one really got like severely hurt or killed or anything. They just had like a totally bloodless coup, and apparently people are happy with the results.
That takes an amount of skill I could not comprehend.
Yeah, I can't even imagine, especially in the modern world, the amount of like organization that must have taken. And the discipline.
Yeah.
Because like if you're already at the point where you want to just throw them out, like there's probably a lot of anger there's probably a lot of resentment, so there's probably a lot of temptation to engage in much more violence, and the fact that like nobody did is really surprising.
Especially the fact that it was totally bloodless.
Yeah.
It's just insane.
Like, maybe that's me projecting as an American who expects violence in those sorts of things. Which, you know, I'll entertain the idea that maybe that's possible. Ow! Okay, he's a good shot. I mean, look at what we're doing right now. Even so, though, like, I think it's fair to say, just comparing human history across the friggin' board, that sort of thing is rare.
Yeah. I mean, like, looking all over the world, revolutions tend to be bloody and drawn out.
Yeah. I mean, look at...
Usually the fastest ones are the bloodiest, because that's like, oh boy, genocide.
Yeah, I mean, look at France during their revolution. Look at Ukraine right now.
Pyro says, well, Iceland only has about 300,000 people, so it's probably a lot easier when you consider that.
Exactly. That's what I'm getting at.
Marcus says, yeah, the coup in Iceland was the result of the most recent recession and the fact that the bankers who knew it was coming didn't do anything to stop it.
Yeah.
They jailed literally every banker in the country.
Wow, I didn't know that part.
That's woke. That's powerful, actually.
Jeez.
They said no.
Iceland doesn't screw around.
Can't you blame them, though?
No,
no. If it got shit, if it worked, man.
At the risk of diving slightly into politics, I know there were a lot of people that wished that had happened to the people responsible for like the crash of the housing market here in the U.S. a few years ago.
Yeah.
Where it was just like, it was all pretty much just, money movers on Wall Street, and only like one guy ever took a fall for things that hundreds of people were involved in. So like, I could really see the temptation to do that. So I mean, like, credit to Iceland for doing what we kind of wish we could have done here.
Yep.
Ooh, I got the Steyr 50. Hell yeah. It is time to incinerate rooms.
Marcus says, they then nationalized their banks.
Oh, I didn't know that. I suppose it does stand to reason that if they threw it all out, they would have to do something to change it afterward.
Yeah. Well, you kind of have to. If you take out something like that, you have to put something back in.
Yeah. Damn, I don't think I actually got anyone with my fancy Steyr. Oh well.
Lady Nocturne wants to know why Russia does not like us.
Us as in the U.S.?
I don't know. I don't know if...
Or us as in wherever she's from. It's Nocturne, you're from UK, right? Am I remembering that correctly?
I'm pretty sure that's what they just been talking about this time. I don't know.
As far as the U.S., and to a lesser extent, just because we're allies, the UK as well. It comes from the Cold War, in which case it's...
Lane Nocturne says, yeah. From UK.
Gotcha. It's from the old Cold War era, in which the concepts of American capitalistic democracy and communism were still like in severely armed opposition to one another, and there was a great fear on each side of one another and the influence of each respective system upon the various nations that each faction had their hand in. So there's just a lot of leftover animosity from that time, and a lot of that is starting to unfortunately kindle up again, considering that Putin is really playing from like the classic Soviet playbook these days, considering he's a former KGB agent himself. So, I mean, he was taught that playbook a long time ago, so he knows it very well. And so, unfortunately, given the political climate surrounding each of our respective nations, a lot of those Cold War themes and feels and animosities are starting to come around again, which is sad to see. I wish it wasn't that way. I mean, that's just the way it is, though.
Oh my god. Your R5 is darn accurate.
It's time to go Steyr. Oh god, this thing does crazy damage to objective points.
Oh, the Steyr 50?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty beastly. It's a good time.
Whoa. There we go. Oh god. Airstrike. Ow, 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 ow. What exactly does sonar vision do?
See-through walls. It's blacklight.
Oh! Okay.
And whatever works.
Interesting. It actually makes it harder at long range, though, so that's a problem.
Yeah, I use it when I'm like knifing a crate, so I can see the people coming up on the other side.
Oh, there's a lot of them in there.
I would like to once again start a Moon City to avoid potential World War III.
And yet, as I've talked about in the channel on the past, wow, on the channel in the past even, I still think that one of these days, the first, like, whether it's a lunar colony or probably more likely these days a Mars colony that gets large enough to decide it doesn't need a parent nation on Earth anymore, there will come a day, I'm calling it really early, when the first major colony of humanized, space settlements declares its independence, and Earth governments will have to decide, what are we going to do about that? Like, do we just send missiles at whatever place it is and say, well, we spent all this time and money and effort and people and science making this colony happen, since the people that are there now decided, screw us, destroy it all. Like, I don't see that happening.
No.
At the same time, though, I don't see, like, a military incursion going to take it, because it's probably really far away, it's probably prohibitively expensive to get there, and I don't see any nation justifying the expenditure that such a military campaign would require.
So I feel like they're just going to say, well,
yeah,
dang,
they're
nothing
probably,
we can do about it.
yeah, they're probably just going to have to say, well, okay, we wish you hadn't done that, there's nothing we can do about it, so, alright, fine, let's make a deal. How are we going to trade now?
It's going to be like, we'll starve you out, or we'll just use you as a landing point, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I am really curious to see how that will go down. I almost hope, just because I am so interested in seeing how that goes, that it happens in my lifetime. Even if I'm like 90, I want to see what happens, because I know it's going to.
Pyro says, the whole space colony war thing is literally the plot of Gundam.
Mm-hmm.
And Marcus goes, the future sounds a lot like a script for Firefly.
Yeah, it's the plot of Gundam, it's the plot of Zone of the Enders.
Probably because it's so...
To a certain extent, it's also the plot of the old PS1 game Einhander.
My opinion is that I bet space will end up in basically just a state of, like, lawless mercantilism, where no one really attacks each other, but trade is the main mechanism of interaction.
Currently, as far as what I've read, interestingly, the law that applies in space is maritime law. Mm-hmm. So space is regarded in the same legal realm as I was going to say interstellar waters, although I suppose that's more accurate, international waters. where it's very much anything goes, which is a little scary.
Lane Octave says, shouldn't every country just work together to be rid of them?
In an ideal world...
Yeah, but chances are, unless some really terrible shit happens and enough of the world bands together under a single united group, nobody's going to work together enough to actually make that happen.
Because sadly humans are a tribal species, and so, you know, international cooperation is tough enough to organize as it is, and global cooperation hasn't happened about pretty much anything to date in human history, so...
So, like I said, it's going to take some terrible something or other to make that happen.
Yeah. Like, that's not to say that it shouldn't happen, because I'd love to see it happen. It's just, I don't think our species is even, like, neurologically capable of such unified cooperation across the board yet.
Not yet.
Because we're just so psychologically programmed to operate on a tribal level.
I honestly think it's going to take, like, invasion.
Yeah, a lot of people joke about it. There's a grain of truth to... The countries and cultures of Earth will probably finally unify when aliens invade. When we finally have a common enemy across the globe.
When we go Independence Day on this shit.
Yeah. That is probably what it will take. As sad as that is.
Yep.
Space is going to be interesting. Because
It really is.
Just a realm of utility by association. Like, you only use what you need to associate with those that are immediately useful.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think Eve might be the closest thing we can get.
Yeah.
And I don't think Eve is too far off either.
I don't
Other than
either.
the fantastic elements, but like the market elements. And
Exactly,
stuff,
yeah.
Pretty close to right on.
Pyro says, trouble is, how would you police space? Who would patrol space?
You can't.
Yeah, exactly. You can't.
Exactly. That's the problem.
You know, if we can't come up with an interstellar governing body that, like, every country that has space influence signs off on the creation of, you know, a policing security force for, then, you know, there is no one true authority if no one agrees on it.
No.
So...
Yep.
It's interesting stuff.
That's part of the plot of my new series.
Yeah, she's writing a sci-fi story at the moment that delves into these same issues.
It breaks my brain.
And,
It doesn't really break my brain. It's just figuring out what part I want to explore.
yeah, I've talked about this a little in the past, and I think it's relevant here, so I'll repeat it concisely. That as much as a part of me might like to see, you know, humans reach for the stars and finally, like, establish major colonies and incursions into space for the sheer academic study aspect of it, because we just want to learn about the universe.
That's not going to be high.
I don't think it is. I think we've already tapped out the extent of what that motivation will get us. Because, like, NASA pretty much just exists for the sheer academic concern of space exploration, of just wanting to learn.
I don't think that's what's... If we really want to truly do space...
It has to come from an economic motivation.
It does. It has to be economic.
Because here's the thing.
And then it will become military, and then it's going to continue to be economic, and that's how it's going to end up happening.
Economic concerns will therefore need protection, which will involve military, since countries will want to protect their assets in space. That will launch us into the stars.
Yeah, that's what it's going to take.
Because the thing is, as much as in an ideal philosophical world, academic ambition is a great motivator to get into space, that's great on paper. That's great as a concept. It's not what is going to organize countries. It's not what's going to organize companies, corporations.
Yeah, because you have to get the money from somewhere.
Exactly. And space is an expensive venture to make the first forays into.
Yeah.
Someone has got to put the capital forward to develop the technology, to develop the means, to develop the systems, to get us there and to make it a routine thing to do.
Yeah. Curiosity is great until you hit the paywall.
Exactly.
Celtic Knight says, need to go Babylon 5 route in space. Pyro says, everything between space stations and colonies could just be full of pirates. Asteroid belts could be like Pirate Haven because how large it is. You need literally millions of people to patrol even small sections of space.
Yeah.
Lady Noctis says, Mass Effect in real life.
Pretty much.
Pretty much. Essentially, if you wanted to have any kind of patrol anything, you would essentially have to do the space highway idea, where essentially there's a very specific route that, merchants and most travel would be along.
Yeah.
And then you would only patrol that specific route. You couldn't actually patrol the space around it.
Yeah, that's the route that, the governing body then suggests, okay, go this way because this route is protected.
Yeah. Go through this series of coordinates because this is where we have our defenses.
If you stray off the space road and go into nullsec, then we can't guarantee your safety.
Yeah. Then you're on your own.
So,
which
the thing
actually is a thing in my thing.
Oh, yeah. Because the thing is, there is an enormous, an astronomical, literally, amount of money to be made in space. Because one only need look at the composition of our asteroid field. Look at entire asteroids that weigh millions of tons, comprised of precious metals that are really rare here on Earth, things like silicon, like titanium, even rarer metals and elements. There are trillions of dollars just floating around in space.
Marcus. He misheard what we said. I'm not going to repeat it.
Oh, okay. I'm referring to nullsec as a reference to EVE Online.
Which is essentially no security.
Yes, null security.
I haven't played EVE. Yeah, I was going to say, it's just ungoverned area, basically, right?
Yeah. Essentially,
lawless territory.
There's not going to be anyone coming to help you unless someone just decides to be nice.
Yeah, it's like you Montana. And your corporation.
Yeah. State of Montana.
Yeah, according to Far Cry.
Marcus says, and again, this tree needs to be renamed Capitalism in Space! Paris says, and then you have shit like Borderlands. I can guarantee at least one space colony would go Borderlands.
Pretty much. I mean,
oh, yeah.
As soon as space travel gets routine, it'll run the gamut. You'll have completely peaceful, idyllic colonies of green farmers, and you'll have cutthroat, straight-up Gold Rush-style Old West colonies where it's really dangerous to exist.
Yeah. Leonardo says silicon is a rare resource?
Yeah. Ow. Is that what?
Space habitats are going to be insane.
Yeah.
Leonardo asks, silicon is a rare resource?
Yes.
There is actually not that much silicon.
Yeah, and there are, in fact, asteroids composed, if not entirely, then in large part, of elements that are used. I forget some of the precise names of them. I wish I could remember them so that I would sound a little more knowledgeable. Yeah, a little more legit in what I'm saying. Just take my word for it, though, that a lot of elements that we currently use in the manufacturing of advanced computer chips, of components, whoops, I did not mean to do that, of smartphones even, and tablets. These are only found in quantities large enough to reliably mine for profit in remote locations in Africa on Earth right now. And sadly, a lot of the mining facilities for those elements are flirting with still essentially using slave labor. They either don't pay the people working for them, or they pay them very little, and they are pretty much forced to mine these elements for the Western world's interests through force of arms, because they have either local militaries that are profiting off of it, or foreign mercenaries that are there protecting corporations' monetary interests. It's sad to see that that still happens. If we were able to gather those resources from space, that shit wouldn't need to happen.
Yeah, because we'd have other alternatives.
And the cost of manufacture for advanced electronics would plummet. We would see an enormous increase in ubiquitousness of technology.
Yeah. Mark says, wait, silicon is a natural resource?
Yeah. It's a rare element. It's natural, though.
Pyra says, what makes me sad is I'll probably never live long enough to see space become the frontier. I want to one day see the space equivalent of the Wild West.
Yes, me too. I'm worried that I won't see it in my lifetime.
Yeah.
I realistically, honestly, I think, our grandkids will see it.
Yeah,
I don't think we will.
It'll be our kids or our grandkids, most likely, I think.
Assuming we don't nuke ourselves into oblivion first, but hopefully not.
Well, assuming no world-ending shenanigans happens.
Yeah. So...
Marcus says, Lawless Frontier sounds like the place I want to retire.
Yeah, I mean, there's a story that I sort of wrote as, fan fiction for her sci-fi universe that's about a team
to be fair,
of...
I have signed off on it. So
Yeah,
it's officially my universe canon, just not
Yeah.
written by me.
It's a collaborative project, let's say, about a team of gas miners on a mining rig orbiting Jupiter.
It's a prequel.
That it sort of sets the scene for some of the stuff that her core story really runs with, and it's about this team finding essentially like an ancient artifact anomaly sort of thing amongst the gas that they cannot explain, and that corporations immediately seize upon as a potential source of enormous profit. And this team is essentially getting told from multiple sides of doing unethical things, and they have to decide what they're going to do about it. So stuff like that,
Yep.
it'll happen.
Pyra says you would literally just need to convince people like CEOs of tech companies or other big companies to shell them money, but that would require Tom Clancy levels of charisma.
Well, and the thing is, like...
And maybe I'll live long enough to go all cyborg robot body thingy to see Space Frontier.
One company right now is starting to take those steps, and that's SpaceX.
Yeah, and Marcus says, let's break Clancy out of the Pentagon cellar.
Yeah, that's
get him to convince all these people that we need to go to space.
Yeah, that's Elon Musk's project. And the thing is, like, the first company to take that step to invest the capital...
you can't go to your inbox when you're ready.
Yeah, I know. That's fine. I'll do it later. The first company to take that step to field the costs involved in the development of space transit technology, primarily, as well as, like, I think, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, modular station manufacturing, like orbital assembly platforms. That's an enormous upfront cost that, assuming they don't go bankrupt in the process of that part, if they can weather putting that much money into it first, they will see so many returns on that investment.
Everybody else will want to jump on.
Yeah, because everyone is going to iterate off of their work, which means if they get proper patents and stuff like that,
so much money.
There is so much money to be made.
Which is actually exactly what happens.
In her stories.
There's a character who is based sort of on the SpaceX CEO idea that's considered the father of space exploration in my universe. He does not yet have a name.
Nah, well, we still gotta name him, but
you and I are... This company doesn't have a name either, but it's a thing.
I'm gonna refill my drink. I'll be back in 5.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to unready and check my inbox real quick.
Yeah.
Let's see. More medals. So, as you can probably tell,
we have put a lot of thought into this sort of stuff.
This is a subject that she and I each have intense interest in.
Yeah. We've talked for many hours, many times about this particular subject.
Yeah.
Mostly because we both love the sci-fi genre.
Yeah.
And we both love to see space exploration be an actual thing that happens.
I come at this from pardon me, a cynical humanitarian point of view. I'll clarify that. Because I am skeptical of humanity's ability to organize soon enough to ensure that this planet remains habitable for us in a short enough order for us to stay alive on it.
Actually, that's something that Pyro is about to talk about. So
exactly.
Can I?
Well, I'll give it a concise explanation. So, because of that, and because of the myriad of concerns of things that could eliminate all life on this planet in an instant from space, things like solar flares and gamma rays from stars going supernova off in the distance.
So much stuff that can go wrong.
You know, comets and asteroids that could plummet into Earth at any given time that we haven't seen coming. There are 1,000,003 things that could completely kill us instantly that we would never see coming. We need to get off of this rock and start spreading out so that if we lose...
so our species continues.
Yeah, so that if one planet's worth of humans gets annihilated, the species isn't done.
Okay, can I?
Yes.
Okay. Pyro says, well, in Gundam, they only really went to space because the Earth could physically no longer support the amount of people on Earth, and literally millions of people were forced to leave for space by governments.
Mm-hmm.
But even in Gundam, they do things like bring asteroids out from the belt closer to the moon or Earth to strip for resources to build space stations and colonies. But it started with quite a dark subject.
Oh, yeah.
Mark says, since we're talking about space, did you guys know that Mars used to have water and possibly even air?
Yep.
Yes, absolutely.
It still has frozen ice at the poles.
It does.
Especially the southern pole. The southern pole has a lot of ice.
It does, actually.
And there is considerable evidence looking at the ravines across the face of Mars to show that there was, at one time, a fair amount of flowing water across the surface of it.
So whether that's like oceans with strong tides, or if we're talking about like rivers, there was a lot of flowing water.
Yeah, I have a... It sounds...
Nocturne says, I just want to see exosuits being the new military standard here. And Marcus says, lady, that's actually not that far away.
It's really not. It's getting developed. The U.S. Army, in fact, is starting to field some of those. There are like lower skeletal things that are meant to help field soldiers carry like enormous amounts of gear. It's getting there, though. It's in development. I have it. It sounds aggrandized to say a personal theory, like I'm the one innovating
Mars.
this. Yeah. It's just I've heard compelling arguments from many different people that I think it makes sense that the reason all of Mars's water is condensed in ice at the poles, I think it has something to do with the massive crater scar across its surface.
Yeah.
Because that implies
some event happened that fucked everything up on it.
A massive collision occurred, and I think enough ejecta was thrust into its atmosphere for long enough that it cooled the surface water so much that it all froze. And it all just collected at the poles, and because any amount of atmosphere that it had clearly got screwed up from whatever event took place,
and
it meant that it didn't assume an atmosphere or a temperature or what have you, essentially the circumstances necessary, pardon me, geez, for that water to remelt, and so it has stayed melted since. That's what I think happened. Has stayed frozen since.
Pyre says a company in China has dock workers that use upper exosuits to lift heavy objects and stuff. It's like one company. But yeah. So it's happening. It's slow progress.
Oh yeah.
But we're getting to exosuits. We're starting. We're on the way.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna happen, yo.
Oh yeah.
Hello.
He returns.
The universe will be safe once we land in Abrams on the moon.
One of these days, man. You just gotta pressure seal it.
I also think our battery might be...
It's about to die. Well, we got no...
I don't know, because it's... I mean, it's...
Yeah, it's at like...
sliver.
3% maybe?
Yeah.
So, apologies if we lose chat. Noah, I may have to ask you to help with chat relay if my phone goes down.
Lady Nocturne says, Stalker exosuits for the win! Pyre says, well, we only have the moon because something big smacked into the Earth when it was still forming.
Yeah.
If it hit the Earth much later, the Earth would be fine.
Yep.
The Earth is very fortunate in its circumstances.
Oh, yeah.
And we have continued to be fortunate in our circumstances, which is why we need to get off the Earth, because that luck is going to run out at some point.
It's because the thing is, it's not a question of if something happens to Earth. It's a question of when.
We can only hope that it happens so far in the future that we're not on Earth. That we have all since moved on.
I think I'm sticking with recon.
Or that we've gotten so advanced that we can literally stop the things that would have destroyed it.
Yeah, I mean, we're approaching that ability now. We're just not quite there yet.
No.
Sorry, people who thought Armageddon was a documentary.
Sorry, all the 5,000 doomsday cults who have come and gone.
Yeah, I know. I want a T-shirt that's just a checklist of how many supposed apocalypses I've survived.
Yeah. Let's see.
Ow.
Let's see. Captain Knight says the moon is a perfect wake-up call to Earth since it's an asteroid crater-ridden satellite.
Yeah.
Marcus says, so let me get this straight. I made one of my book characters carry a SIG P320 because I figured U.S. military would choose it as a standard sidearm this year, and I was right.
Mm-hmm.
And I also might have been correct about the U.S. military using exoskeletons in the near future.
Yeah, they're not fielding them for combat yet. It's pretty much just for helping people carry heavy gear into the field. Yeah. They're not meant to engage with that system on, though. At least not yet.
What is it? Utility.
Yeah, it's not a combat thing yet.
Pyre says, isn't that the basic sci-fi trope that for some reason humans possess a quality that no other species can explain, known as luck?
Because humans always have to feel special in our fiction. Because it scares us to think that we're insignificant on a cosmic scale.
Because we are special. We invented the Abrams and saved the world from communism.
But essentially, yeah, the idea of we're just extraordinarily lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it's not wrong because we have been extraordinarily lucky.
Oh, yeah.
But the idea that we're the only ones is a little bit iffy. I think.
Well, I mean, that's something that Noah and I actually discussed in our Rocket League stream a few weeks ago.
That was a weird stream.
That was, man. We got like weirdly deep and philosophical. Because that's something he and I discussed, though, is Fermi's paradox, which, for anyone that isn't aware, is the physicist, I forget his first name, Fermi was his name, crunching the numbers and saying that it's strangely inexplicable how statistically, due to the age of the universe and the number of planets and galaxies in existence and for how long they have existed, other life should exist somewhere else, and due to the relative youth of life on Earth, it should have already existed for long enough to have advanced far past our own levels of physiological and technological advancement.
Right.
To the point where they should already essentially rule the universe. Except, as far as we can tell, they don't. We can't even tell if they exist. So how do we explain that? And there are multiple conceptual explanations. We just don't know which is the right answer yet. Whether or not we've just lucked out and we've never encountered them, or they're so advanced that
they've moved beyond where we can even interact
yeah, like
with.
we may have detected their influence upon the observable galaxy and just not realized that it was coming from an unnatural source, or rather, I suppose, from an artificial source, I suppose is more accurate. We may have mistaken their actions for natural phenomena, because we couldn't even recognize that it was coming from another living organism. Or the other aspect is, well, not the other, one other aspect is, they may already know of us, and we may essentially have the same sort of difference in perspective as they are the humans to our ants, and we just can't even conceive of their level of existence, which is entirely possible if they're that much more advanced than us. Or, who knows, maybe through some insane mathematical fluke, we're the first ones to develop the way that we have.
Yep.
The chances of that are so infinitesimally small that it's ludicrous. However, mathematically speaking, that is a chance.
There is a possibility. Let's see. Pirate says, I like to think it's something like Star Trek, Stargate, Mass Effect, where the advanced species just don't like to interact with the younger, more primitive species.
Yeah, that's a common trope in sci-fi, the non-intervention principle.
Yeah, because it's one of the few ways you can explain that
Exactly.
without not having other advanced species out there.
Yep.
Marcus says, plot twist, humanity is actually the most advanced life form there is. How sad.
It's possible.
It's possible, it's also sad.
It is. I hope that's not the case, because, man, if we're it,
I weep for the future.
The universe is in for a rough time.
I like to think that it's a mix of the fact that we are unique in some manner, and that there are other life forms out there that are more advanced. They just don't think at all similar to the way we do.
Yeah.
So the things that we would notice as being affected by them, or the things that we would expect other advanced races to do or be, it's just so radically different from what it actually is that we can't recognize it at all.
Yeah, because all of our conception of life
it's all based
and
around us.
yeah,
because
all of
we
it
don't
is
have anything else to base it on.
It's terrestrial observation from environments that we are familiar with, and it even comes down to the core composition on a molecular level of life that we know of. For instance, carbon-based life is what exists here on Earth. What changes if there's silicon-based life, for instance?
Yeah.
And
like there's a lot of differences that we just can't conceive of because we have no frame of reference for them.
Yeah, exactly.
And honestly, that's what I think is most likely. It's not necessarily that we're the only ones, though there is a chance of that, but more that the other ones there are so radically different that we can't recognize them.
Yeah.
Or, you know, what they're doing. Or maybe they're just content to be in their own little section of the universe and don't care about anybody else because they're not like us and they're not expansionistic or conquest-driven.
Because in our ecosystem, as far as all of recorded human history, it is... Whoa. Alright, that guy has a full-on minigun and exo. How do I get that? Anyway, there's a startling trend, and that is that almost all of the most intelligent life on Earth either is or was at some point during its evolutionary development a predator. Reason being, predators need to outsmart their prey, so predators are generally the smartest organisms on Earth. If that trend carries into extraterrestrial life, we probably don't want to meet it.
But if it isn't, then we might not even know.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we are predators.
Yeah, we are.
Humans are predators. We are literally the apex predator on this planet. It's why we are the dominant species.
Yep. We are omnivorous predators.
That's just how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the way we view things, we still view things as predators view things simply because that's what we are on a level that we just can't change that.
We're programmed to look at the world through that lens.
If the other intelligent life out there isn't predator-based, they won't necessarily want the same things we want or do things the same way we would do them. So, who knows? Maybe they are out there and we just have no idea because they don't need the things we need, so they don't do the things we do.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know. If they are predators, that's utterly terrifying because if they're more advanced than us, then we're screwed.
Yeah, because if they are, then that harkens to Stephen Hawking's cautionary
it's
adage.
like yelling in the jungle.
Yeah, there's a reason you don't yell in the jungle.
Yeah, okay, can I catch up?
Yeah.
Lady Knocker says, I'm interested in those documentaries that talk about how humanity was actually much more advanced in the past.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a reset button or something.
Especially along those lines, look into India's ancient past. There's some fascinating stuff there.
Okay. Pyre says, a good example is the Tolan from Stargate. They lived in a system with more than one habitable planet, and they gave tech to the inhabitants of that planet, but they used that tech to kill each other, and they fucked up their planet so badly that actually started a chain of events that destroyed their home solar system.
Mm-hmm.
Pyre says, yeah, it's a theory I like the least, because I don't really want to run into Klingons, Predators, Reaper kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus says, I just remembered something. I recently saw a game trailer for a game that's all about exploring Mars. In the trailer, the astronaut you play as explores a canyon in Mars and finds, I kid you not, a copy of Communist Manifesto. He then proceeds to fight a long-abandoned town.
What? Oh, as in, the Russians established a colony that we didn't know of. Interesting.
Grendel says, it wasn't terribly amazing, but I read an okay sci-fi series on Reddit where every other intelligent life form in the universe were from herbivores. Yeah. The difficulty is that unless there's an extreme difference in how the world they originated on works from the way ours does.
That's just generally not the way life evolves.
No.
At least in comparable systems to ours.
And that's the thing, is unless it's so radically different that the rules are just not the same at all, herbivorous intelligent life forms are less likely than omnivorous or carnivorous ones. Simply because of the evolutionary...
Yeah. Because the thing is with herbivorous, mental evolution, most of the time their extent of psychological needs consist of identify food source, go to food source, eat food source. Maybe have some...
Find another food source.
Yeah, maybe have some evade predators, emergency thought patterns, and that's about it. Predators, on the other hand, they need to identify which other organisms are potential food sources, which ones pose a risk and which ones don't, which ones they'll have to waste a lot of energy on, which ones they don't, then how to outsmart individual targets. There's so much more for predators to have to think about. It's why they're much more intelligent most of the time.
And honestly, I think that's why unless the world they're from is so extraordinarily different from ours, it's why I don't necessarily expect other intelligent life form to be non-aggressive.
Yeah.
Of course, if they were aggressive and they were sufficiently advanced beyond what we are, you would think we'd have noticed by
Yeah,
now.
and there's also the chance that maybe a rare few have evolved past us, and we lucked out, and they never encountered us during their developmental cycle, and they may have evolved.
Have since gotten beyond the
Yeah.
point at which they would have been a threat.
They may have evolved past their aggressive tendencies after they no longer needed to engage in them because they reached a point of advancement that they were no longer necessary, and so it just, started to get less and less.
There's a lot of possibilities. It's impossible to figure out simply because we have no way of knowing anything beyond what we can interact with ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we have to have a frame of reference.
Yeah,
Everything else is just, well, I guess it's a possibility without really having necessarily a solid foundation for which to work from.
Yeah, and that's why I'm always skeptical of physicists and astronomers and even sci-fi authors to a certain extent that speak, I'd say, overconfidently about how, well, if we encounter life, this is the sort of things it will do. I'm like, you don't know that.
No.
All of those assumptions are coming from a humanocentric point of view.
So essentially, all we can know is that we don't know.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating. So yeah, when you write stories or anything like that, you have to essentially choose what.
Yeah.
You've
You've got to make the cosmic arbitration about what happened in the universe for your story's version.
Because we can't know.
Yeah.
For real. Until it happens. Marcus says, I don't know if it's a Russian colony, but it was literally just regular wooden houses like you would find in today's Eastern Europe.
Huh.
There's got to be a story beyond that.
Yeah.
Are they saying essentially Mars was another Earth?
I don't know about that.
I don't know. That's really strange.
That's strange. It's a little absurdist. Maybe that's the point.
Maybe that's the point.
Noah, are you still alive over there?
Yeah.
Okay,
I just haven't much to say.
Just making sure. Okay.
Pyre says, if
Yeah.
anything, I think future space governments between species would probably be something like the EU or the US, where they trust each other but could go to war with each other very easily if needed.
Yeah, I mean that's sort of the Mass Effect tenuous alliance sort of arrangement. Where like the
Celtic Knight says, or according to ancient aliens on history, we were visited in the past by space aliens, and they decided to back away as we became more violent.
Don't get me started on that.
Woo!
I'll give the concise version of my critique about a lot of the ancient aliens theory, because I'm not ruling out that maybe, who knows, maybe aliens did visit Earth and then just decided, nah, these angry apes aren't really worth our time. Who knows, maybe that happened. A lot of the accomplishments that proponents of the ancient aliens theory accredit to either aliens or human cultures assisted with aliens are
still do all those things.
Yeah, they're explainable through mundane means, and a lot of them, they're so eager to say that, oh, it was aliens. And to me, that just speaks of such a cynicism about humanity's capability.
It's like, oh, we were too stupid to do that on our own, even though we've had people do research and find out, it is easily possible for us to have done that on our own.
And there's that assumption of, oh, well, people were stupid then. Well, no. We are just as physiologically capable on a neurological level to process and to problem solve now as we were 15,000 years ago. So
the only difference is what tools we use.
Exactly. And again, like somebody else was saying earlier, there are evidence points across the globe of saying that at least certain cultures at some point during humanity's now undocumented history were much more advanced than we think. Maybe not to the point of like having space and stuff like that. More advanced like geometry for architecture and stuff. Like the Minoan society. Light reflection, air dispersion within stone structures that act like air conditioning without pumps and electronics and stuff. It just uses natural flow of geometry. That's stuff that humans developed. To just assume that we could only have done that with aliens, I think and I don't mean this to sound like an ad hominem attack. It sort of is, though. I think that eagerness to assume that ancient peoples could only have accomplished those things with outside help speaks to a lack of self-confidence on the part of the person that thinks that. Because they probably think of themselves as needing help to accomplish advanced things.
We couldn't have done, I couldn't have figured that one out myself, so of course you needed help.
Yeah, exactly. It's I'd have never figured that out, so clearly nobody could have. So that's... That's why I don't like the Ancient Aliens theory, even though I'll fully acknowledge that, sure, maybe something like that happened at some point. There's no evidence to say that it didn't.
Marcus says about the game, I think it's another Earth masquerading as Mars.
Okay, gotcha.
Which is kind of what I said.
My 2 cents. They've been largely silent. I think the thing is, I think we're in the same boat as every other species out there.
How so?
Basically, like, we haven't found stuff because of just the sheer distance and the luck involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think everybody's asking the same question if there are other beings to ask that question.
Mm-hmm.
And I think specifically space, I think a lot of violent tendencies will have to be forgotten out of necessity.
Yes.
And I think basically space will be the ultimate test of interspecies diplomacy.
Yeah.
Because I think violence will have no place in space if you want to last in it.
Yeah, as a species, yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you have the technology to easily traverse space, you have the technology to wage amazing amounts of war that could probably wipe species out fairly effortlessly. The thing is, it's sort of the mutually assured destruction sort of thing, is if you have it, so do the other things you're encountering.
Yeah, and I know you talked about the theory of, like, when will we kind of transcend violence?
Yeah.
I think space will be the frontier that does that.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay. Shall I continue?
Yeah, sure.
Pryor says, I was a Stephen Hawking quote about time travelers, because I think if time travel ever became a thing, it'd be so heavily regulated, you wouldn't know if you had met a time traveler, because they would have to go through, like, so much training before they were allowed to even think about visiting another time period.
Yeah, and
his... Celtic Knight says, the Romans not knowing 90-degree angles could have made road building much easier for them. Pyre says 2 points about lost ancient things. Damascus Steel and the Great Library of Alexandria as the fall of the Roman Empire, Greeks and empires that were in the Middle Eastern regions, Turkey, Jerusalem, and other places around that area.
Yeah.
We as a species have probably lost more knowledge to time and accidents than we will ever know. Don't talk to me about the Library of Alexandria. I am still bitter about the Library of Alexandria.
I still get sad thinking of Alexandria. Oh, God. We have forgotten more as a species than we have learned.
Yeah, and it's so desperately sad because we will never get it back. What we lost, we cannot get back because there is no way to do so. Unless we literally time travel and manage to save what was in the library.
Yeah. And the thing is,
and that's not how that
according
works,
to the currently understood laws of physics, time travel isn't possible.
It's only time viewing.
Time viewing is theoretically possible because that has to do with light distortion.
Yeah, I guess we could attempt to read the stuff in the Library of Alexandria,
yeah.
But
the thing is, we currently can't conceive of any apparatus that
by
would.
Which we could do that.
Well, I mean, we could conceivably come up with a theoretical model of how to put something together, except you would only see the stuff that exists where the apparatus is. We wouldn't have the ability to straight up scry around the world like a magician. Yeah.
In a place and be like, I'm gonna look here.
Because for anyone that doesn't know what I'm talking about when it comes to light distortion as pertaining
it's
to...
the same idea of when we look at stars, we're not seeing what is right now, we're seeing what was.
Yeah, we're in fact, for most stars, seeing that star as it existed millions of years ago, because that's how long it took the light to reach us.
Which was actually the point of a very sad fanfiction that I read about, in the Star Wars universe, about Leia looking up at the night sky and finding Alderaan.
Yeah.
And knowing that she can see it, but she will never actually get to go there again, because it's still visible in the night sky of other places,
of that part
even
of the galaxy.
Though it's no longer there.
Yeah, that's a really sad concept.
Yeah, like, I was like, oh my god, it's a beautiful, beautiful idea, but god, it hurts. Yeah. But, you know, because everything, when we look up and see the night sky, or just, you know, look through a telescope and we look at anything in space, we aren't looking at what's there right now.
You are looking at the past.
Yeah. So you can take that concept and find a way to artificially create that, but currently we don't have a way to do that except for what we're, like, where the thing is right then.
And the mechanism for... Oh, jeez. I knew that was coming. For how that works is, since you can, like... I'll condense it. Just look up the science if you're interested. There is an interplay of mass and its effect upon light and how it exists in a gravimetric environment. And so with certain mass distortions, and with the right sort of, essentially a cyclical lens sort of apparatus, you could distort light into like a circle, essentially, and then have it reflect upon itself in a strange sort of way. I'm really under-explaining this.
It's so complicated.
Yeah, it is.
It's pure theoretical.
Exactly. Like, no one's ever made one of these. It's just, it only exists in the realm of theory. Oh, damn it! They have good snipers. So with that concept, again, you could look at older, I guess, instances of the light in an area where the apparatus is located.
Let's see. Pyro says time travel is technically possible, but only into the future. It just involves getting closer to the speed of light.
Well, that's not necessarily time travel so much as it is mass distortion.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you...
I mean, it depends on how you define time travel, I suppose.
I guess it depends on how much change in that time you have. Let's see. Pyro says, I mean, as far as we know, stars we see now could actually have Dyson spheres and rings around them.
Yeah.
But we're still seeing the light from them before it was built.
Yep. Completely true.
We have no way to know. Because everything we're seeing is in the past. And the further away it is, the further in the past what we're seeing actually is.
Yep. There are certain parts of the night sky where, with a powerful enough... I was going to say magnoscope. That's not a thing. What am I looking... What word am I looking for?
Telescope?
Telescope. There we go. You can actually observe some of the oldest events of the known universe very shortly after the Big Bang.
Yep.
Which is weird to think about.
Of course, it has to be a very powerful telescope, and you have to know where you're looking.
Yeah, it's a very specific part of the sky that you have to orient toward. It's there, though, which is so strange to think about.
Yeah.
What the hell is that noise?
I don't know. But yeah, there's... until we can actually, go to these places, we'll never know what it's actually like, because whatever we see is not what is actually there.
Yeah.
We'll actually have to have someone there to communicate to us, and not at an extreme time differential, to know what any place is like.
Yeah, the one thing that is purely theory, and it relies a whole lot upon Element X sort of stuff, is that we already know that quantum entanglement is possible for instantaneous communication of data across infinite distance. And if you don't know what that is, I cannot properly explain it. In all honesty, look it up.
Yeah.
Essentially, it exists.
It's a thing
it's a system of electronic communication that does not come with the weight of waiting for light to travel, or sound to travel, or radio waves to travel across vast distances. It's literally instantaneous across any distance. And there are some theories about how to generate quantum entanglement, essentially nodes for the transmitting end and the receiving end, at range, so that we wouldn't have to actually go to the place that would then transmit data from that to a receiver in a more controlled and safe environment.
Sorry, I almost coughed my lung out.
No, just try not to do that.
I'll do my best.
Right now, all of that is immensely theoretical.
Yeah.
It would, however, allow us the ability to sort of explore the galaxy and beyond from the relative safety of a controlled Earth facility or a space station or whatever, without actually having to go to those places.
Marcus says, time travel to the Old West to see how it truly was would be a dream come true. Pyre says, or the point that you could build a colony ship and send it off into deep space, that by the time they get there, humans could already be there due to technological advancements.
Yeah,
the colony ship was traveling to its destination.
That is a wild concept, however incredibly possible.
Yeah. Celtic Knight says, who knows how advanced we... whoa. Never mind. The dead.
Oh, did the phone die?
Yeah.
Okay, yep, it just dark screened. Okay.
It's done.
Well, No,
I was going to read stuff, but no more.
Chat relay's on you, man.
It's all done.
Where did we leave off? I'll probably pop out of the game so I can just talk in chat monitor.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm really tired.
Okay. Well, then, do you want to call it instead?
I'm really tired.
Okay. Well, then we'll wrap up this match.
If you guys want to keep going, I can just go and curl up in bed, but I'm not feeling well, and I only got 4 hours of sleep.
We'll wrap up for this match then. No worries.
And I think we stopped at, I think it was Celtic's comment that I was about to read.
Alright, who?
Celtic Knight, I think, was the last person whose comment I was going to read, but I don't know.
Celtic Knight says, who knows how advanced we might be right now with the Dark Ages and everything slaying every 3 minutes of time was against God. Like, who knows how far we would be if that hadn't happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, I think the knowledge gained of what happened then might be in some ways more important than what we would have learned.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, humans do not learn unless we do things wrong.
Well, we generally make the most progress in times of enormous stress. Necessity is the mother of invention, after all. And it's only when we're under enormous threat or stress that humans generally tend to make a lot of progress technologically or even philosophically.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. After that, Arby says, find a way to time travel on book in one way to get to the 19th century. Bad idea. Bad idea. I'm sorry, that's a bad idea. And here's why. War.
Yeah, war and medical advancements.
You would need to, like, if time travel is possible, they might have made it so you physically cannot get sick or
that's
get
true.
any diseases, and then it would be okay, probably.
Although, what if you were to then, like, have a kid in the past and give your genetic modifications of diseaselessness to someone in the past?
And then you just screw it up, and everything goes to shit. This is why time travel, while fun to mess around with, as long as you ignore certain issues with it.
And then, of course, there's the question of, is any amount of time travel that has happened or will happen, is it predetermined, as in, like, does the timeline...
because you traveled to the past to do X, Y, or Z.
Like, already happened? Or are you changing time when you do it? Or does it split timelines? Like, that's all stuff that is purely theoretical and we have no idea.
Yeah.
So what else do you want in chat? Really quickly, because this is a good conversation.
Yeah, this got deep.
Let's see. I mean, as far as we know, shows are not that dice and here's the rings. Did we already read the dice?
Yeah, we got that one.
Alright, damn, Professor Kinsmark. And Professor Kinsmark barely gives Vi a chance to read chat.
Sorry.
We're having fun.
This is an interesting topic for me.
Marcus says the stream is getting a bit choppy.
Okay. Well, maybe it's a good time to wrap then.
Yeah. Karen says, well, Space Race was a combination of fear and a pissing contest.
Yeah.
That too.
Absolutely.
That'll do it.
Yep. And then Shield says, I thought it was my Wi-Fi that for a moment, but then again, everyone else is on Wi-Fi.
We might just be having some issues.
Yeah, our connection continues to stay inconsistent, so...
until we can get some fixed...
Yeah, remind me to talk to your dad as soon as I can to see if we can get that swapped out, because I really don't want these connectivity issues to affect War of the Chosen when we start that series. And I don't want to have to delay starting it, because we haven't fixed it yet, so remind me to talk to him about that. Okay. Anything else to catch up on, or should I close out?
Closing comments. Marcus says, honestly, I just want to meet my ancestors and then move to America.
Okie dokie.
That's where chat is as of now.
Okie dokie. So then we will call the stream here.
So the pack is sealed.
Okay, it's done. It's done. Why don't you go ahead and take it off monitor capture?
Yeah, that's a good idea. There we go. Okie dokie.
The infinite picture.
Yeah, the infinite picture-in-picture that somehow doesn't crash my processor. Oh, I forgot to actually pop out chat. So
It's
okay, well,
whatever. We're good.
Yep. So I appreciate all of you guys contributing to the conversation. This was actually a really fun one to hold. I love it when
my brain is kind of melty
yeah.
because I'm not feeling well, and we went
Oh yeah.
We went way down the rabbit hole a few times.
These are the sorts of conversations that I thrive on.
This is the sort of thing that we spend, like, we'll start talking about at dinner, and then, like, it'll be like 6 o'clock at dinner time, and then it'll be 4 in the morning, and we're still going.
So,
and then I look at him, and I'm just like, I'm tired. Can we go to bed now?
Happened many times.
Oh, so many times.
And, like, this is the sort of conversations that, like, even prior to me meeting her, for instance, when our mutual friend, Miss T, who introduced us in college, I would hang out with her, and there were reasons that people assumed that, like, me and Miss T were an item, and we weren't, for clarification.
They would spend hours just talking about stuff, but nobody knew. We
would go and get dinner at the dining hall on campus when we were in college, and then we would go and hang out in her room. And then since we would go to her room at like 9 at night, and then we wouldn't come out until like 6 in the morning because we were staying up all night just talking, and then we would go and get like food, which was for us dinner. And then people are just like, oh, okay, she had him over. And never mind that we were like talking about astrophysics and philosophy the whole time. And then she arrived, and people assumed that like Miss T and I were still a thing.
Only then it became clear that...
like, she and I were more clearly a thing, and people were just like...
very confused.
How are these two not trying to kill each other?
Especially since we were roommates.
Yeah, exactly.
The first year.
Have they got some sort of, like, weird three-way thing going on? And we're just like, no, guys.
And then Miss T and Ken were just like, we were never...
It's not how it was. Although I can easily see why they thought what they thought.
Like, we get it, but no. Mostly, we're all just night owls.
Yeah.
And we like to talk about weird...
when we get off onto tangents, we get off onto tangents.
So many tangents.
So, anyway, I appreciate everyone contributing to this one.
It was fun.
And since I made a pact with myself considering the events of yesterday, check the channel proper if you're curious about what I'm referring to call more attention to the avenues available for people to support us that are inclined to do so, because I've actually had a couple of people tell me that they wanted to contribute to us through subscriptions and Patreon stuff and stuff like that, and just didn't know that we had them. So I decided, you know what, I'm never going to just ask people to do so, because I can't. I'll call more attention to it so that people who might want to do those things are aware of them. So again, if you've enjoyed this stream and the conversation, etc. and all that, consider subscribing to us here. Consider checking out our Patreon to support us even there if you are more comfortable with that, whichever. Thank you all kindly for watching. I'm Kensberg here at Decibel Press.
I'm Violeta.
And as always, we wish you all good gaming and
Godspeed. Bye!
And continued survival in space!
Except we're not in space.
If you go to space, I hope you'll survive up there, because it's a dangerous place, you know.
Oh, yeah. Super dangerous, yo.
That was fun.
They got Glocks in space. Watch out.